What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another David Rams live stream. Hope you're doing well on this. I don't know if it's been a glorious Sunday for you. It's been an okay one for me. I'll get more into that in a bit and what I've been up to today. First off, let me tell you a bit about what I'm doing today. So there's this YouTube channel. It's called Renaissance Periodization. Okay, so what they do is this guy he's a doctor. He's like a sports doctor, I think. Not sports doctor, I don't know what you call it. Exercise scientist. That's the one. He's an exercise scientist. He has a doctorate in that shit. And basically, he does all these videos about how to train, and he also does some diet related stuff, and occasionally touches on some more issues that are kind of outside of that people are talking about. And so I watch his videos for fitness related stuff because, I'm just at the gym, just smashing it, And the other day, YouTube served me up a video of his that was 10 reasons to go vegan. This video here. And it said, hey, YouTube's like, hey, you should watch that. And I thought, well, I could watch it. I could. But why don't I watch it live? The video's almost an hour long. This guy spent almost an hour. Well, more than 1 hour prepping this video. It's seeming like a proper video. I had a quick little glance at it. I haven't seen it yet. I glanced at the topics. Seems like he's put a lot of effort into this. Now, this could go one of two ways, right? This could be a bad video. This could be an anti-vegan video. It could be making fun of vegans. It could be misinformation. It could be all this stuff. Or it could be something that is like a really good take. I know he's not a vegan himself, but so yeah, I mean, guys, I really don't know how it's going to go. We're just going to have to find out, aren't we? We're just going to have to dive in. Before we do, I guess I'll give you a quick little summary of what I've been up to today. Today, guys, without giving too much away, I can tell you I had a very important meeting today with some very important people about a very important thing happening soon. So vague, I know, so vague. You will know more about this very soon. I'll be able to tell you more about this very soon. But once I do tell you about this, it's going to be very exciting. Lots of movement, something great for animals, okay? It's all animal rights that I'm talking about now. Very vague. But that's what I've been doing today. It was a 4-hour meeting with some very important people about some very important things that we're going to do for animals. Very, very exciting. So keep your eyes and ears open for that, because when I launch it, like with you, when I tell you, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on and we're going to need your help. So yeah, keep your eyes and ears open. So guys, today I'm going to get into this video that we talked about by this big channel. They've got like, I think almost 1 million subscribers, by the way, this channel, this Renaissance Periodization channel. I think it's like 1 million. Let's have a look. 804,000 subs, right? This guy's super famous. He's got a big, you could call it a cult following, something like that. Big following. So excited to get into this. Remember, guys, today, as always, but especially when I'm doing a reaction video like this or an interview, just remember, I'll keep glancing at the live chat, but I don't always get to all your comments. If you want to help support my work and support what I'm doing with this thing that I just discussed very briefly, as well as this is 2 projects I've got going on right now. There's this one, and then there's the one that Annie and I are doing alone. No, not completely alone, but not with the same people. Anyway, basically 2 big animal rights projects going on, as well as the YouTube, as well as all this work. Every single one of your super chats and your Streamlabs donations, or if you sign up to Patreon, if you sign up as a YouTube member, all of it goes to that. So when you do one of these comments, you want me to see it, you want me to react to it, you want me to say hello, it's double win. Everyone wins. You win because I see you comment, I say hello, say thank you. I win because I get to use that money that you sent over to go and do work for animals, and obviously animals win for the same reason. So guys, get involved, do the super chats, do the Streamlabs today. Let's keep this shit rolling. Shall we dive into the video? Broccoli's in the chat if you want to dive into the video and start watching this video titled 10 Reasons to Go Vegan by this very much non-vegan channel. Fitness, exercise, muscle channel. And just to match with what we're doing today, I do have my protein shake. This is the vegan mass gainer, by the way, from the brand Bulk. I'm not sponsored by them, but they do some really good vegan ones. I've got a bit of a sensitive stomach, so it's good. This one's good for me because it doesn't trigger anything in me at all. It's mass gainer. This thing's got like the thing itself is about 430 calories, and then you do it with soy milk, and I think it goes to like 500, like about 30 grams of protein, and carbs, and some of the carb and some other stuff and it tastes pretty good too. If you want a easier way to bulk up as a slim person, you find it hard to eat a lot. Like, I'm not really a big eater. This is a good thing. I'm promoting these guys. I should be promoting these guys. They haven't paid me anything. But yeah, really easy way to just up them calories if you're trying to put on some muscle. I see broccoli's in the chat, guys. So let's keep that open. So let's have a look then. Let's have a look what he's saying. 10 reasons to go vegan. 70,000 views. Mostly likes. Oh, and check this out. I saw a comment earlier. Listen to this. Where was it? Hey, Mike. This video played a big role in my decision to go vegan. Thank you for sharing your views in a logical and clearly well thought through manner, as always. Look at that. Someone went vegan because of this video. Looks good, right? All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Hey folks, Dr. Mike Israetel here for Renaissance Periodization. Today's video is an interesting topic we usually don't cover here, but why not give it a shot? 10 reasons to consider veganism. We're going to take a pretty in-depth look and see what we can muster up. Now, the big question here, and it's going to be the big question the entire time through the talk, is veganism the way to go?
The answer is yes. There we go. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining today. It was a good live stream. Glad we... Oh, I'm kidding. Come on, let's see what else they've got.
Now, to begin, most vegans sure think that's the case. And quite literally, not only do they themselves go vegan or have gone vegan, but they're very, very keen on, how do I put this best? Being interested that other people go vegan too.
That's such a non-intrusive way of saying it. But of course, yeah, we have a keen interest in getting other people to go vegan, not because of our own gains from that, but because we want the animals to gain from that. It's not, yeah, I hope he gets into that. It's not like we just want everyone to be like us because we want everyone to be the same or something, just because. It's all because we're doing it for animals.
Right, being very interested. However, unfortunately, many but not all vegans, even in the public space, often struggle to communicate the best advantages of veganism and the best points for veganism. But that's totally understandable because a lot of vegans come from a place of being very, very upset, rightfully so, at animal suffering. And, you know, it's hard to have equanimity in the face of essentially mass slaughter, which is really what industrial farming is. So,
damn, what a really grounded comment he just made. He seems to really understand that. It's crazy how this guy's not, I don't think, he's definitely not a vegan. I'm almost certain he's not a vegan, but he seems to have a very deep understanding of why some vegans do behave in certain ways that, you know, even vegans sometimes say, whoa, okay, that person needs to calm down. This is not helping. We need to be more blah, blah, blah. But we understand why, because we're vegan too, but he understands why as a non-vegan. That's really interesting. Hey, Julie, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much. That's awesome. And I see you put vegan since 2019. You're legendary, David. Thank you. I appreciate it. It didn't pop up on the screen. Let me see if I can fix that. I'm not sure why. I could try and test it with an old one, see if it pops up and it refreshes it. This was from the last stream from Vegan Slam. Oh, there you go. You just popped up now. So Vegan Slam's one's there, and Julie, yours will pop up just after it. Sometimes it's a bit delayed, but we're all good. We're all good. But yeah, so far, Dr. Mike, I'm impressed.
So if you come to veganism because you're really, really upset and emotional about mass slaughter, which you damn well should be, by the way, it can be really hard to shift gears and talk to a person who comes into the discussion either already against veganism to some extent, or just quite neutral. And then, even if they're neutral, a lot of times, you know, accusing people of being, you know, for slaughtering or being a murderer by proxy is kind of like a really sort of not the best way to convince anyone of much of anything. Because usually if your first and maybe even only argument is a grotesque insult, even if that insult carries a lot of veracity to it, a lot of people just turn you away.
He's not wrong. These insults, calling people murderers, calling people animal abusers, if that's how you start, he's right. It's not the way to start in a one-on-one interaction. But if you are using that to generate media content, if you're using that to generate viral videos, then it's a whole different kettle of fish. Because is that a speciesist phrase? Because then what you're doing is it's vegan fishing. You are putting something out there that you know is going to really, really rile people up, and they'll share it, and it'll spread and spread and spread. And then all the algorithms pick up on what these people are watching, and then they send them to other vegan videos. And so it depends on the goal of the activist. But yeah, he's right. As a rule, it's just generally not a good idea to call people names, even if they have shown themselves to be dismissive and things like that. Unless you have a specific target in mind, someone's filming you, and then you can use it for that reason. So I agree, but yeah, he's missed that part of the whole online activism space, basically. Sometimes it's good to get people, quote unquote, triggered.
But there are very, very good reasons to consider being vegan, or at least shifting down that spectrum. And they're worth covering. However, the issue is not super simple. Okay, there are multiple dimensions to consider whether or not, or in what cases or not, veganism is a good idea versus eating meat, versus eating some kinds of meat versus eating other kinds of meat. And the answers to, is veganism the right way to go, are often spectral. Like they lie on a spectrum. So not so much being vegan is good, or being vegan is bad, or eating meat is good, eating meat is bad. It's a matter much more of better and worse. And even more so better and worse by what kind of qualifications. So I've taken a stab at this, and I've arranged what I think are 10 quite important factors for deciding on meat consumption. 10 factors.
Okay, let's see.
And there are almost certainly some I missed. And feel free to bring them up in the comments, by all means.
So yeah, this whole idea, what he's basically said there, to be clear, I don't think he has said veganism is on a spectrum, but he thinks there are a spectrum of situations where veganism would be better or worse, or eating animals would be better or worse. If I'll just say, for the sake of speculation, right? So I'll speculate on what he could say. If he's going to say, oh, if you're living in some tribe somewhere in the middle of nowhere, then you're on a part of this spectrum where you probably should eat meat because you will die otherwise. So if that's what he means by there is a spectrum of different situations, well, no vegan's going to argue against that. We would argue to say, let's try and make a world where they don't have to do that. Right. But then we wouldn't tell them, just die if you can't be vegan. That's not useful or productive. Most vegans are reasonable enough to draw a line and say, in survival situations, you just do what you have to do. That's that, right? So if that's where he's going, then that would make sense. If he's going to try and use some other way, then we'll just have to see. I'm speculating right now. I won't prejudge. Let's see what he's going to say.
And there are certain nuances of even the factors that I got that I definitely missed. So feel free to bring them up in the comments. That'd be really awesome because other people can read them and get a little bit more educated on the subject. And my goal with this here is to just get us thinking a little bit more about this issue in depth, in a sort of tone and an attempt to be quite logical. Right. In this situation. Take the emotion dial and turn it down, which a lot of times pro and anti-vegan tend to kind of clash, and there's a lot of emotion, not a whole lot of thinking going on, and maybe we can develop a little bit more clarity on the issue. Now, let's see. I will give what I think are some pretty decent approaches and decent recommendations at the end of this video. I'm not going to leave it entirely up to nuance, but there is still quite a bit of nuance there and a lot of personal choice for you, the viewer, to make. So, without further ado, factor number one, I ranked these, by the way, roughly in my assessment of the order of importance. Very roughly, so plus or minus here. And we're dealing with spectral qualities here. They're on a spectrum. There's not like this is good, this is bad. So for most of these, some of these it's like pretty clear. For most of these, it's like really not bad, possibly even good, all the way to terrible. And we're going to talk about how eating animals, why eating animals, or using them for various products can be anywhere on that scale. So
yeah, I got that bit. I'm keen to see what he means by this scale. So far, he seems to be very reasonable. So let's see what's come on. Let's get into it. Exactly, race lever. Let's get into this. Like, what's the scale?
Here we go.
Let's go.
Pain and suffering. Fact of the matter is, being killed feels bad for almost all animals, most animals. Okay, and for very many animals, including very commonly farm ones, chickens to a pretty good extent, cows to a huge extent, and pigs to an enormous extent, probably being killed and slaughtered and being factory farmed feels terrible. Really, 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 really bad. Right?
Agree.
But to put this in context, there are degrees here. So there's a spectrum. For my assessment, and these are just kind of examples, but I think they lie relatively accurately in relation to each other on the spectrum. And you can probably see them right there. Here's the deal. The worst thing in many instances is to kill, slaughter, and including raise and farm in very inhumane conditions, a highly intelligent and very reflective being. Highly intelligent, reflective beings with a huge spectrum of emotion.
So he's putting a scale here on, basically what he's done here is put a scale on the levels of, let's say, emotional intelligence and the levels of emotional and psychological distress an animal can have, and possibly the levels of pain that they feel based on, I guess, his perception or based on some research he's done. I think that's kind of what he's getting at here. I'm not going to jump the gun. I'm going to let him explain his little scale here on the left and then see what he's saying.
And feel terror and harm in ways that other beings simply cannot. Right? The qualitative pain is just higher. Okay, the ability to suffer truly and suffer, and there's Eastern wisdom definition of suffering, not just experiencing pain, but experiencing pain layered into an expectation of not pain and a hope for future not pain, an attachment to past not pain, experiencing all that psychic pain in addition to physical pain. Real bad deal. So the beings that experience that the most are highly reflective and intelligent humans. So if we were to farm and eat highly reflective and intelligent humans, we'd be doing like the most terrible possible crazy thing. Tons of pain and suffering is caused. Now, cows, chickens, and pigs, actually chickens, cows, and pigs in that order, experience incrementally more pain and suffering at a deeper and deeper level, but probably less so than humans because they simply don't have that ability to reflect nearly as much.
So he says probably there, and that's a really good, is a good thing he said probably, because I understand the logic he's applying here, that, okay, yeah, because we have the psychological element that we can predict the future. We can say, oh, I don't want that to happen to me tomorrow. And, oh, things like that we can analyze and all these different things. So I understand there's like different pain there, but that's what it is. It's different. It's not like there is more or it's worse. For example, if I wanted to, I'm not saying I will, but if I wanted to, I could say that actually the chickens, the cows and pigs would have more pain. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I think it is different. And for example, if he was being taken to a slaughterhouse himself, he couldn't figure it out logically. Like he would be able to, how do I put this? He'd have to be quite close to the place to be able to start smelling and hearing the things that would make him scared. And then he'd be able to put two and two together and maybe figure out that things are about to happen, stuff like that. Okay, so as humans, this is how we operate. With a pig, a cow, for example, they have really heightened senses on the other senses. So they've got more heightened hearing, they've got more heightened sense of smell, but they don't have the ability to process and fully, and that pigs could do. But with cows, for example, or sheep, they don't have that ability. So they can smell and they can hear, and they can smell blood and guts and they can hear screams. They don't quite understand what's happening. It's like children, which you could argue makes them have more suffering and pain because it's the not knowing that is causing a lot of the harm. So it's a really weird kind of wishy-washy area to say who has it worse. And this scale, I understand what he's tried to achieve, but yeah, I'm not completely sold, even though I get his logic behind it. I've got a feeling he's going to go ahead and try to justify eating some of these animals because of the levels of pain they feel or something. I would hope not, but let's see.
Okay. So chickens, cows, and pigs. So for example, if you get a pig and he's eating at a factory farm and he's not proximately currently being hurt, and there's not a ton of squealing around him going on and, sort of getting him to think, oh God, I'm going to die really soon. There's probably quite a few times during a pig's life where he's just sort of happily eating and there's pain and suffering to come later, but he probably doesn't have a huge ability to anticipate that and suffer currently for pain that's anticipatorily future caused. So what a human does for sure. So if you get a rather intelligent human, this is like pure terror where he knows like even as he's eating, he's like, I'm just going to get like electroshocked right now and I can see everyone around me and our society's gone and all these people are emoting around me and it's terrible and I know I'm going to die soon and get tortured. That's awful, right? So pigs probably do this quite a bit, not as much as humans. So less suffering per unit animal. Cows do this probably quite a bit, maybe not as much as pigs, but it's a toss-up.
Suffering per unit. That was a funny thing. I don't think he's meaning to sound horrible. I think he's just trying to put a lot of logic on suffering. It's really difficult to quantify. So, what he said there about a pig can't predict the future, I said the same thing, that they're not thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow about an electric prod or anything like that. But he's completely either missed or, I don't know, just forgotten about the state of most pigs on Earth. They are not just in some place eating some food, happy as Larry. They are almost in a constant state of stress, in a constant state of disarray, you could call it. They are never happy in the states they're in, because the state of chickens and pigs and cows, they all have these instincts of how they are supposed to live, right? And trust me when I say no animal on Earth has the instinct to live with thousands of other animals in a confined, dark, dirty pen where they can't keep themselves clean, where they're constantly at risk of disease. They're pumped with antibiotics because of that. They have to fight for food. They rip each other's tails off. They rip each other's ears off because of the stress. This is their life before the slaughterhouse. So I guess he's never seen footage of where the pigs live or where the cows live, or where the chickens live. And I guess he's never seen all the different diseases and ailments they have, all the tumors, all the problems. The fact that a lot of these places will cut the tails of pigs off preemptively because they know that they're going to bite each other. This is the stress caused by these places. So no, the suffering is from day one through to the final days of their life. And it's really important that we make that clear here. It's not just like they have one bad day at the end of their life. That is not how the system works.
Chickens probably do this considerably less, but it's just not as smart, right? Then you keep moving down the spectrum. What about fish? Okay, there's a considerable amount of debate in the technical literature here in neuroscience about what it is fish think and feel. And seemingly something like a consensus is like probably not much at best.
We'll get to fish in a minute. I just saw a comment, someone saying pigs are happy in mud. It's true. Pigs like to roll around in mud to protect their skin from the sun. And I think there's other reasons. Maybe I think it cools them down or something as well. There's something like that. But they're happy in mud. They're not happy rolling in their own diarrhea, in their own disease-ridden shit and piss, which is how most pigs are kept in these big barns. They don't have a mud pit where it's just soil and water. No, they are knee-deep in their own feces. So no pig likes that.
Not much at best, at worst. And at best, maybe they don't actually have an emotion, anything analogous to suffering. They're more automaton-like. But maybe not. Maybe they do have some kind of basal emotion, so they have a capability to suffer, though much less than other more advanced species. Moving down to crustaceans and things like crab and shrimp and lobster, it's really a toss-up. They're probably mostly automata-like, where they're kind of more like machines than they are animals. Neural networks are very non-complicated by animal and human standards. So it's a good bet they probably sort of feel in the...
Hold up. You guys can hear me again? Yeah, I messed up. I moved the microphone and the cable came out. Let me just go back for five seconds.
Non-complicated by animal and human standards. So it's a good bet they probably sort of feel in the sense that we feel pain and suffering. Suffering, almost certainly not. They probably have no anticipatory thinking going on whatsoever. And pain, maybe some rudimentary form of it, maybe not even. Okay? Insects almost certainly don't feel hardly anything. They're literally like molecular machines scaled up. And laboratory meat, wins this one huge because there's nobody in pain and nobody in suffering. It's just quite peculiar when you talk to some folks and they're like, I'm so vegan, I won't even eat laboratory meat. It's like, that's interesting personal choice, totally respect. But as far as like telling other people that that's what they should be doing, difficult to convince someone, at least on the suffering and pain dimension, because she was, lab meat doesn't cause pain and suffering at all.
Well, okay. So a couple of things to talk about here. First off, he's gone down from fish, crustaceans to insects. As far as I know, well, with fish, there's more and more studies that are showing that fish do have levels of pain and that they're far more intelligent than we've given them credit for. So that's one thing. Crustaceans and insects, admittedly, I haven't looked into too much, to be honest with you, but I would just tell people that it's not that long that we've known that animals and mammals feel pain. It's not even been that long that that's been known science. So err on the side of caution with crustaceans, with insects. Don't eat them. Assume that one day we're going to find out that they're far more complex than we know. And the beauty of it is that you don't have to eat them anyway. So why would you? You know what I mean? It's not like, put it this way, if you had to eat some animal protein for survival, like you literally had to, you have no choice, you would probably go for insects and crustaceans. In the order he's done it, you would probably go for that if you had to. So to be fair to him, it's not like he's completely off base with this whole thing that he's put together. In a situation where you have to choose to eat one animal, you probably start with what you perceive to be the least feeling and emotional and the least that's going to cause the least amount of suffering. You'd probably start with insects, right? But again, the beauty of the situation is you don't have to. So the lab meat is an option, fruits and vegetables, right? Legumes, nuts, seeds, all these different things you can eat. There's literally thousands and thousands of edible plants. So there you go. As what he said just now about the lab meat, that some vegans choose not to eat lab meat because lab meat causes no suffering. He's not completely right there, actually, because lab meat, some of these companies are continuing to test on animals for their products. So as long as they're testing on animals for those products, when you buy lab meat from companies that test on animals, they are testing on more animals. So that's where vegans don't support animal testing, especially there's debates that people have about if a company used to test on animals or if a product was tested on animals but isn't tested anymore, is that vegan or not? But the point is, if a company is continuously right now testing on animals, I don't think any vegan should support that company. Do you agree? Broccoli's in the chat if you agree. So there are some companies that do lab meat that don't test on animals. The testing had been done maybe like 3 years ago, and now they have what it takes to make more lab meat. I don't really see an issue with that, especially and as long as a company says, we will not test on animals. We will not do that. If they say they won't do that, but they're using a product that was previously tested, I don't really see an issue. It's not like your money is going to more animal testing, is it? So that's how I see that. But that's why some vegans reject lab meat. Other vegans will also reject lab meat because they think it's just grim. But again, it's not something you should tell other people not to do because you don't like it. That doesn't make any sense. It's a personal preference, right?
And if you're going to try to drive a hard bargain and say, listen, all animals suffer and feel pain to the same extent, that's actually categorically false. And it's by no means clear that insects, crustaceans, and maybe even fish have pain and suffering at all. Maybe fish, definitely chickens, cows, and pigs, so on and so forth. So here, we can start to see this on a spectrum and kind of appreciate, okay, if someone says, well, animals don't suffer, you're like, what about pigs? Like, nah, pigs, like, they don't feel pain. Like, that's almost certainly false. And so, yes, we probably should feel at least very, very bad about hurting pigs, cows, and chickens, sort of in that order, descending. So that's just that. That's just that variable.
Agreed, obviously. I've never heard anyone, well, some people try to claim that cows, pigs, and chickens don't feel anything, but I just, they're just trolls usually, just people trying to act like idiots for the sake of it. Fulmar Music, thank you for the super chat, mate. Good things are going to happen. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, open your door. 2 chickens are going. Why? Thank you. I'm not sure what that means, but I'll take it. Good things are going to happen. Take a deep breath. Yep. Cool. There you go. There you go. I don't think there are 2 chickens outside my door, though, unfortunately. But thank you so much for the super chat, mate. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Moving on. Number 2 is what I term political precedent. So a lot of times in discussions, certain types of vegans, not all, not remotely all, will say, listen, you're okay with eating animals, right? But, if we take an animal of a certain ability, let's say a pig or a cow, and we try to find a human with that same mental ability, right? Because we're saying it's maybe okay to eat animals because they don't suffer as much as humans, and we don't care about them as much for that reason. So when we're eating pork, we justify it by saying whatever, pigs don't really suffer like we do, which is probably true. But, they still suffer a crap load. We'll get to that again later. So then you start thinking, okay, what if we take an equivalent human intellectually to a pig? Do we care about them? And if we don't care about them, if it's intellectual ability and ability to suffer, if we scale a human down, actually find a real human that's roughly the intellectual equivalency of a pig, which you can find with severely mentally disabled folks, then is it okay to eat mentally disabled folks? And here's the deal. There's a profoundly good reason why it's not nearly the same thing and not nearly okay. And here it is.
Whoa, okay. So he's about to explain. Okay. So he's about to explain why, if you have a human who is mentally disabled to the same level of a pig, why it's still okay to eat a pig, but it's not okay to do that to the person, even though they've been equalized for the thing he said was more important. Intelligence is important, suffering is important, but now they're the same level. Why is it not okay then? Let's hear it.
Let's just walk down this path, crazy hypothetical. Hang in there with me. I promise there's a point. So let's say we sort of fall for that argument, say, you know what? Fine. I'm going to be consistent. If I can eat a pig, I think it should be legal for people to eat mentally retarded individuals.
Oh, he dropped me off. This is from 2 years ago when that wasn't so controversial.
Easy to say that, right? Sounds crazy. Sounds as crazy as it is. And we say, okay, mental retardation in the technical literature is a 70 IQ cutoff, okay? And then let's say, find a family, and there's two siblings in the family, brother and sister, brother and brother, and one individual scores an IQ 70, and one scores an IQ 69. Does that mean that the IQ 70 score is left to be a human being and have civil rights and grow on and be, have a beautiful life, experiencing all the amenities of modern society, and that the sibling that scores a 69 is legit just pulled away from the screaming, crying family and just slaughtered for food? That's kind of insane, right? Kind of insane. And another example there, and I'll tell you why it's insane in a second. So you think well, that's what we do with animals, almost. What about grandma? Some people, a considerable number of people get into senility in their later years, and their fluid IQ actually goes down. And then if you don't start so high, then you can actually IQ your way down into below 70. So if grandma ages into a low IQ, does she just get pulled away from the family, right from her grandchildren's arms, just slaughtered for food? That sounds crazy, right? What about this? If you can say, okay, it's crazy, but it's something you can do, and it's sustainable. We can imagine a psychotic society that does this and say, that's just about as psychotic as a society that eats pigs and cows and chickens, right? Morally, right? Seems so far. And there's a lot of validity to that. However, it is not sustainable, and here's why. Let's imagine who is it that's doing the IQ assessing? Who is it that's doing the killing? Ostensibly, at least that part, maybe it wouldn't be done by a political party or organization, but it would certainly be regulated at a political level. Now imagine a new political party gets into ascendance. This happens all the time in human history. Political parties change all the time. And now a new party's in charge, and it says, okay, well, look, we have this IQ test that if people score below a certain value, we just get to slaughter them for food. Gee whiz, we do have a lot of political opposition and we want to keep getting reelected. Why don't we alter the IQ test even just marginally, if we can get away with it substantially?
I just want to get to the point where he explains why it's not the same. I don't know. He's kind of sold us on the hook there. I'm going to explain why it's not the same. And now he's repeating this point over and over. I kind of just want to get to the conclusion.
So that the IQ test turns more into a political polarity test. It's are you pro-gun? You're yes. And they're you scored 65. You go die now in the crazy slaughter chambers. And that all of a sudden is a very realistic concern. We know it's a realistic concern because almost every time in history when you give governments a crap load of power to do crazy things, usually people float up, grab that power, and do the crazy things.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
So if an IQ test becomes a test for essentially political opinion for the opposition, this leads to an insane downward spiral of chaos, which destroys the society.
Yes.
I predict in almost every case.
I agree. I don't want to do any of that. So I don't see, Oh, is he about to say that because of that, it's not a comparable hypothetical? Is that the whole basis of this? I hope it isn't. That would be a little bit weak.
So any sort of edict or way of running a society that's anything but essentially all humans get almost all rights in almost all circumstances. Humans are special, and if you are human, we do not violate your civil rights, short of some very, very intricate things like you're trying to hurt other people, you're unable to care for yourself, blah, blah, blah. Then if it's anything other than that, if we start making like, well, some humans we can kill for food and some we can't, and we have some kind of remotely arbitrary rule set to which one of those sides people fall on, this becomes wildly untenable. It is very likely to destabilize society. And of course, a destabilized society means no more Elon Musk, no more Tesla, no more Amazon food delivery, no more refrigeration, no more cooling, no more modern medicine, and we're all back in the gutter in the fucking jungle, right? So really, really bad for everyone. Right? What this does, this line of reasoning renders the so it's okay to eat mentally disabled people argument as very, very weak. Okay? Eating even very intelligent animals with a lot of feelings doesn't muck with that, because we have a rule that says we're allowed to eat pigs, and if we can eat pigs, it doesn't destabilize society. If we say, well, pigs are just as intelligent and able to perform various functions as some people, why don't we make a rule that says eat some people? That destabilizes society. Okay, feel free to disagree and let us know in the comments. But that's kind of a bad deal, which is why this argument, sort of for animal rights, the human equivocation argument, falls pretty flatly on its face.
I mean, the point of that comment, that when somebody says, I can eat a pig because pigs aren't as smart as humans and they don't suffer as much as humans. When you say, okay, but you don't feel that way about a human or a dog, right? If there were a human with the same intelligence and same capacity to suffer as a pig, you wouldn't say that we have the right to just kill them willy-nilly. And you also wouldn't say that the same thing about a dog. So that isn't that important to you, is it? Because no person ever in the street arguing with a vegan is considering everything that he's just said here. This discussion that you have with somebody on this topic, it's in a vacuum. We're not actually going to talk about, the ramifications of eating low IQ humans and what it would do to society. That's not important. That's not what we're talking about here. We're simply talking about what you value as an individual and why you devalue a pig. That's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. We're not trying to actually have you consider a world where we eat humans. That's not what the point is. I don't know if he's just completely missed that, but explaining that what will happen if we do start eating humans and saying why that means it's bad, that doesn't make sense. That's not the purpose of it. As I said, it's supposed to be in a vacuum. And yeah, I mean, it's these topics, when you bring this up, one thing I will agree with him on is that these kinds of things they're good to get people. They're good for content. It's good for content to make these kind of human comparison arguments. Although I wouldn't say it's, if you're trying to convince the person right in front of you to go vegan, I wouldn't say these kind of hypotheticals where you ask them to whether they would eat humans are that useful, because it kind of takes the conversation away from reality into the ethereal, into the philosophical, into this kind of world where we're going to talk about things that will never really happen kind of thing. So I'm definitely on the side of let's try and keep it really focused and as based here as possible. If someone says, well, they're not that smart, are they? Well, you can say, well, there's lots of animals that aren't that smart that you wouldn't eat, right? And there are people that aren't that smart. I mean, we don't want to hurt people just because they're not smart, do we? So it's kind of, it can be done like that way, you know? But yeah, I don't know why he's gone balls deep into this. It seems a bit, maybe there's something I'm missing here. Maybe he's going to summarize why he's gone balls deep into this, but it really does kind of miss the point of a vegan bringing up a human with this kind of capability.
Okay, so from a perspective of political precedent, it is absolutely fine, in my assessment, to say that, look, humans are special because humans are organized into a society, and in order for that human society to continue to prosper and flourish and grow, we can't just randomly kill off some humans here and there. Even non-randomly, it's a really bad idea.
I mean, it's easy to be sitting here as a human saying humans are special in society. It's because you're seeing it entirely from your own perspective as a human. It's the same as white people say, well, listen, you know, we need to think about this from this perspective of white people in society. You see, yeah, white people are special. Men are special. Okay, so we can't do this to men and white people. We can't do what we do to black people and women to men and white people, because men and white people are special, and black people and women, it's not the same. Okay, so we can do these things to them and society will still be fine, but we can't do it to men or white people because society will crumble. You see what I mean? It's kind of like when you're the person who's in the position with the power, then it's, of course you're going to say that. Of course you're going to undermine the importance of the others that don't have the power. Because why, because we're the most important ones. We're the humans. We're the white people. We're the men. It's just, and I'm not saying he is like some kind of evil person for that. I'm just pointing out that the things that he's saying right now are exactly the same. It's the same logic that men have said about women, that white people said about black people. It's the same logic. Not that he believes those things, but that this line of thinking that we are more important and everyone else is below us is just a consistent theme throughout human history to all different groups, outgroups of humans. And then now he's using it against animals too.
So that is what it is. And of all the arguments for veganism, we're going to take that one and we're going to put it aside because it's probably not helpful for that reason. All right, moving on. Number 3 is rights reciprocity ability. Okay, little thought experiment. You take a room, a completely closed off room, nowhere to run. You take a vegan, a very good person, bowl of water, and adult gigantic male pig. Okay, and you just don't give them any food for forever. Eventually, the pig will almost certainly eat the vegan. Okay, because first of all, the vegan is highly unlikely to eat the pig out of respect for that pig's animal rights. The thing is, pigs don't have a respect for other creatures' rights. They probably don't have the psychological wherewithal to even imagine that there is this concept called rights and that there's this concept called respect. They don't do a whole lot of that, okay? Possibly none of it at all. So the pig is unable to respect rights. And if animals cannot respect human rights, there is a pretty decent beginning of a moral argument that says, why should humans respect their rights back?
Because it's the same as a child can't respect your rights. A child doesn't understand rights reciprocation because they're a child, because they have limited cognitive ability. An animal having a limited cognitive ability so that they can't understand how you're being good to them, so they should be good to you, doesn't mean that then you shouldn't be good to them. That's evil. Why would you be horrible to them because they don't understand the world? For example, a crocodile would most likely try to kill you. That doesn't mean you should go and kill them because they would kill you if you were left alone in a room with them. Am I missing that? There's some logic I'm missing here. Why enact violence on others simply because they don't, in circumstances, they may enact violence on you if in some hypothetical you're in a room with them alone. So I'm going to kill you. I'm going to pay people to breed you and stab you and eat you because you wouldn't be able to not kill me if we were ever forced in together for like a long period of time and I couldn't defend myself. What? I don't know, dude. That doesn't make any sense.
Like, if someone just walks into your garage and takes shit out of your garage and uses it their own, if you come into their garage and take their shit, they can't be like, what the hell are you doing? Like, well, I'm doing the same shit you are, right? So because a whole lot of animals simply cannot and will not reciprocate human rights, it's kind of an interesting thing to say, well, they deserve rights. Like, they do? But they don't believe in rights. It's not even a concept they hold.
So again, we have that same point. If a human doesn't believe in rights, then they don't get any rights. If they have some kind of psychological impairment, that means they don't understand rights. Children, it's not even a psychological impairment. Children don't understand rights. So they don't deserve them. Well, then they'd say, well, they deserve them because they're human. And humans in general understand rights and reciprocate rights. This is what the common counter to that is, they'd say. You'd say, okay, then, so just bear with me. So if we were in a world where 51% of humans couldn't do that, they couldn't reciprocate rights. 51% of humans couldn't, right? But 49% could, then would you say it's okay to disregard this child that can't reciprocate rights currently? Because the majority of their species doesn't do that. So then we can just do what we want to them. Well, no, of course not. Right. Okay, so then what is it then? Why disregard someone's right to have rights then? Right? Because the reason isn't because, well, that species doesn't normally do that, or that species does normally do that. So what is it then? Well, it's just the same old human supremacy. It's just the same old. The ones in power get to make the rules, so they make the rules that suit them best. And in this case, it's the human making the rules, about other animals, so I'm going to make the rules that suit me best. You're another animal. I don't need to give you rights because you can't give me rights. That's the rule I've just made up. That's the rule. Logically, it doesn't add up, but hey, I get to make the rules because I'm the human and I'm the one in power and I'm the one with the knife and you can't do anything about it, which is really sad. I'm not saying, by the way, I want to make this clear. I'm not saying he's saying that. He's clearly playing through a thought experiment here. It's just that I don't agree with what he's saying as the results of this experiment, of course. But hey, we don't know what he really thinks because this is all his thoughts and the fors and against and stuff like that. But he did say at the end of the video that he's going to give his own take. So we'll look forward to that.
Now, again, this isn't either or. This isn't like animals can't respect human rights. There's a spectrum here. So here's the spectrum. At the very tail end of the spectrum on the super, super bad side is if we eat rights respecting humans. Okay, go back to like in the Holocaust, no one was eaten, but you just go back and just imagine the Holocaust. Okay, you got some person that's an electrical engineer today, and tomorrow they're in a fucking cage, and you're like, I shouldn't have to respect their rights. I'm like, why? They can respect yours. Like, the mental gymnastics are really painful, right? So if you were eating, consuming as meat, formally. Rights respecting humans, you're doing from a rights reciprocity ability perspective a terrible, terrible thing that's very difficult to justify, if not impossible. Okay, you are committing a moral sin. Now, we scale that down a little bit and we have a slightly less bad situation of, let's say, eating bunny rabbits. Okay, when you eat a bunny rabbits do not have a moral calculus whereby they won't hurt you almost under any circumstance because they respect your right to property and the property of your own body and liberty and pursuit of happiness. They don't do any shit like that. They just don't have the offensive weaponry to kill you and don't have the instinctual drive to kill you, nor do they really have meat hunger, so there's no good reason for them to ever kill you. So they can't hurt you, but only from lack of ability. So we're not going to cut them all the slack in the world from a rights perspective, but if you eat a bunny, it's kind of like, at least it would never do that to you. Now, not because it's morally good, just because it's morally inept and at least doesn't have any ill will, right? So bad, definitely not as bad as eating a potentially rights-respecting human, but still bad.
It's still, I still don't understand, or I understand. I don't agree with what he's saying. This doesn't add up as any reason to eat any of these animals because they can't reciprocate the right. He keeps, because the bunny couldn't kill you. You killing the bunny is bad. Well, yes, that's right, but it's worse than killing a human. It's a pointless thought experiment here to me. Like he's put them here, he's put pigs, cows, and at the bottom of the thing he's put predators, right? Crocodiles. So he's gonna say that eating a crocodile is probably the least bad thing that you could do because a crocodile will try to kill you and would try to kill you. Therefore, killing them and eating them would be the best. That's what he's trying to say here, based on the fact that they would try to do that to you. Or the alternative of what you could do, and here's a crazy idea. You could just avoid animals that want to kill you, avoid being stuck in a room alone with any animal that would want to do you harm, and go about your life just kind of trying to stay away from the other animals and not hurting them and not putting yourself in a position where they would hurt you. And then this whole point that he's making here doesn't need to be even had. There's no need to have it. If we lived in a world where we were constantly forced into rooms with animals and kill or be killed, then this lineup of stuff would make sense. If we lived in some crazy world where some crazy god was like, I'm going to shove you in a room with all these different animals, you got to make this decision based on rights, reciprocation, then all right, then maybe he'd have a point. But as we're not in that world and we can just avoid animals, avoid hurting them, and avoid putting ourselves in positions where we could be hurt by them as much as possible, there's no need to go around killing and eating them, then, is there? There's no need to even have this whole thing here.
Further down is eating a cow.
And obviously I would say that is the thing to do. Like, that is the world we're in. Just do that. Just avoid them. Leave them alone.
Like, given the opportunity, if a cow tramples the shit out of you because it's scared or it's just trying to get somewhere, or if you get put in a container with a bull, like a male cow, it'll fucking kill you because it's a territorial, super mean animal.
Don't do that.
And I promise it won't lose any sleep over that fact.
Well, of course they won't. They don't have the ability to understand that, which is why you should never put yourself in a container with a bull. It's pretty simple stuff.
Not a whole lot of moral agency going on there, not a whole lot of rights respecting. It's like if you kill a cow from the rights reciprocity ability, it's not the greatest thing in the world because cows aren't super mean. They're not trying to go out of their way to kill you, but it's not the worst thing in the world, just from this perspective, right? Further down the road is pigs. Cows do not actively consume humans. They might trample you and they're going to eat you. Pigs will absolutely fucking eat you. Not under most circumstances, but under enough to where you realize pigs really don't give a shit about human rights. Right?
Still not a reason to go and kill and eat pigs. Hey, vegan, thank you for the tip. Holocausts are bad because they create greenhouse gases. As an environmentalist, I do not pay for humans to be killed because it's bad for the environment and releases greenhouse gases. There are no other reasons to be against it, right? Actually, that's not true. This is where, in my opinion, environmental arguments fall to pieces. Because if you put the climate stuff as your number one priority, and like everything else falls aside, number one priority is to get less greenhouse gases and improve the planet, then actually you would have to say, well, I actually support. I think it's something that rhymes with this, so YouTube doesn't get silly. You would have to support. Las Hooters. That's not going to work, is it? Just try and think about what that rhymes with. People that go into places with things that go bang, 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 and do a lot of damage. You'd have to support those guys because, hey, less humans means better planet because then there's less greenhouse gases. You see, so this is where the environmental stuff falls apart for me. Actually, in my opinion, environmentalism needs to come with ethics. Otherwise, what's the point? Why would we want a violent world? But it's still, at least the planet didn't burn up in a ball of flames. But that's great. But then we live in a world where everything's just constant violence, where we're all killing each other and blah 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 blah. So I think ethics needs to apply. So actually, yeah, what you said there is the opposite. Actually, it would be very environmentally friendly to wipe out people. No, but I wouldn't do it. So this is what frustrates me when environmentalist anti-vegans say, well, it's more environmental to do all this killing to animals. Well, I don't give a shit, man. Why would you even want to live on a world where all this violence is? If that's the world, if we have a choice between having no world, but we are kind to each other and kind to animals, or we maintain the world, but we have to be violent as hell to animals and have all these horrible hellholes for them, I'd choose the no world, to be honest with you. I don't know about you guys. Broccoli's in the chat if you agree.
Right, so why should we? Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't. Just in this dimension of rights reciprocity ability, there is not a good argument to be saving pigs on this alone.
Let me just, before we continue, let me just quickly clarify here. That is not the position that we're in. What I just gave you is a false dichotomy. There is more than those two options. There is actually the option to have a kind world where we do save the planet, right? Where the planet is great. We just need to all get on board with it and all these different options that all these different things that we can implement, different systems that actually help the planet and help animals too, the plant-based systems.
And all the way down at the other end of the spectrum are, what is so bad about eating predators? Okay, so if you go down, make it pretty simple, you hunt an alligator, you shoot it with your own gun or kill it with your bare hands, and you make jerky out of it, and you eat alligator jerky. And a vegan walks by and they're like, how dare you? You're eating jerky. You're like, what's alligator jerky? And they're like, that animal had rights. Like, you did it though? Like, as soon as it got the opportunity, would try to kill anyone it knows, including other alligators, by the way, that are smaller, and definitely you. You right there, Mr. Vegan, it would try to eat you. It has no regard for human rights. As a matter of fact, it's a predator. It's an active rights violator to everything it sees around itself. So if you're saying you got to respect the rights of beings that can respect your rights back, the alligator, crocodile, etc., Komodo dragon get none of that. So on the rights reciprocity ability, there's probably essentially nothing evil whatsoever wrong with eating alligators because they would eat you too in the same situation. You're just acting on their level. Right? So that's what that is.
You're just acting on their level, but why would you want to act on their level? What is that as an excuse? You just acted on their level. Hey, look, ducks rape each other, right? So, if you rape a duck, you're just acting on their level. There's nothing wrong with that. Now that's fucked up, yeah? But that's the logic he's just used to justify going killing an alligator. Well, then you could use it for going to do that to go and grape a duck too. You could use the logic to go and do so many different things to different animals that they do to each other. Hey, they do that to me. They violate each other's reproductive rights. So I'm going to go violate their reproductive rights. That's not a slope you want to slip down. Oh my lord. What else did they do that we could use here? I think the graping one is definitely that's probably the best we're going to get today as an example. But let me have a quick think, see if there's any more. What other things did they do to each other? Well, actually, yeah, you could. Oh my lord, you could say, they sometimes animals they lick each other in the private areas, like the bum area, without consent. And you never know if the other animal liked it or not. I mean, that could be a rights violation. So look, since they do that to each other, Dr. Mike, why don't you get out and go and lick some? Why don't you go out and lick some lion behind, lick some hyena behind, huh? Get your tongue up in there, because they do it to each other, and that could be seen as a rights violation. That's without consent. Sometimes they don't like it. Sometimes they move away, like, hey, what the hell are you doing? They don't like that. So hey. You just lower. You're just at their level. You're just doing what they do. Nothing wrong with it, right? Jesus, that's not good. That's not good logic.
Notice lots of gray area.
It's not a gray area there. Oh my lord. If that's a gray area, then to you, bro, then I'm concerned. That's a very concerning gray area to have, dude. A very concerning gray area. All right. We have a super chat, a Streamlabs tip from a vegan again. Did it pop up? Yeah, it did. I'm going to eat you vegans in chat. You're all grass-fed, lived good lives, and are literally made of meat and contain all nutrients my body needs to be healthy. Morality is subjective, by the way. Only the perpetrator gets to decide if you had a good life. Well, that's logically consistent, vegan. So thank you for sharing that with us all. Please do enjoy your meal. And yeah, just have a good one. Enjoy that, right? Enjoy that.
4, environmental effects. All right.
All right.
A couple of things, and this is where vegans gain a real big advantage.
All right, we're going to go for some climate stuff. Let's see.
So it takes, in order to raise livestock, for example, it takes more grain to feed livestock that eventually goes to humans than it would grain if just all humans were vegan. That step of going from the energy density of grain and feeding it into animals and then feeding into ourselves, that animal step, wildly inefficient and requires way more environmental degradation.
True.
Right? It takes up a ton of land area. True. It pollutes a lot more. If we didn't have animal agriculture, there would be significantly less pollution. So check, super easy one for the vegan cause. Factory farms specifically cause a good deal of global pollution, specifically depositing carbon into the atmosphere. And some calculations, probably the best ones, is like something like a 2%, 2.5% net carbon cost per individual, per capita. So if someone goes from being a meat eater or just an omnivore to vegan, they produce 2 to 2.5% per person per year less carbon to contribute to anthropogenic global warming. Not the end of the world, as global warming is also not the end of the world, TLDR, but definitely a net negative and, quite a big cost. Quite a big cost, something definitely to think about. Not life-altering, but definitely not a great thing, right? And lastly, although I'm sure there's many more other environmental points you can make, sort of just to illustrate this principle here, farming animals can increase, the occurrence and spread of zoonotic diseases significantly.
Well, it sort of can. It does. It does increase them significantly. I recently interviewed Dr. Faraz Hassini, who is into this. He was actually, so he is a vegan doctor, a vegan scientist, and biomedical, I can't remember what his thing is now. I always get it mixed up. In the beginning of the interview I did with him, I also was like, wait, is that what you do? Anyway, he's working on lab meat and stuff, and he was a cancer doctor, actually. He was researching cancer and stuff. And then he started looking into what the main causes of the main killers in the world were, and the main causes of things like influenza, heart disease, cancer, and he was tracing it all back to diet-related. They're all diet-related risks, and also influenza. He told me, I think he said it pretty much exclusively comes from animal farming. Influenza, the new strains, that is, from the poultry, the bird farms. So it's not that they can increase zoonotic diseases; they do increase zoonotic diseases. These places are festering grounds to grow new and exciting diseases. So yeah, that interview's coming out soon, guys. Stay tuned for that. Vegan, cheers for another tip, mate. Thank you. Given the title of this, do you think this will convince Anyway to be vegan? I don't know who Anyway is, but I'm sure, well, somebody was convinced by the title of this video. Actually, in the comments of this one, I brought it up earlier. Someone said that they went vegan from watching this video. So, yes, yeah, somebody was.
All right, so where you guys think coronavirus came from? Came from a Chinese lab, man. I swear to God, the CIA is controlled by China. I had to say it. It's those times still. But in all seriousness, even if coronavirus was somehow made by a Chinese lab, sure, there's probably 5% chance that happened. There's a ton of diseases we just get from like agriculture and wet markets and farming animals that we just straight up would never get if we never consumed animals.
True.
So, like, that's definitely a thing. However, slightly to the omnivore perspective, is that hunting animals, especially ones that tend to become overpopulated and get a lot of disease going, hunting animals may actually be an environmental plus. So hunting actually comes out pretty good in this scenario, just for environmental effects. So if we take a look at this on a spectral perspective...
Well, no. I understand he's trying to see it from both sides of the spectrum and trying to play the diplomat in that. Okay, there are pluses and minuses, but the only reason that there would be overpopulation of native species is because of human encroachment on their habitat. So destroying their homes, destroying their habitat, building things or whatever, or making noise nearby so that they run away and they move away. So that means they have a smaller space to live in, which means that they have less resources, which can lead to more problems, and they starvation and living in closer proximity, which can spread diseases, stuff like that. The other reason that they have these problems is because we took out all the predators because we were not comfortable with there being other animals around that could pose us some harm as we move more and more into the wilderness. So, and then the numbers increase. So it's not fair to go out there and go and shoot animals aiming for their heart or head and go out there and try and wipe them out to fix the problem that you caused. It's like, oh, we caused loads of death and suffering to these animals, so let's get some guns and go and put some more death and suffering on them to fix the problems caused by the original death and suffering we put on them. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's reasonable. I think we need to find less invasive methods, less violent methods of helping animals to avoid the disease and to avoid dying of starvation and lack of resources. There needs to be better ways to do that, not just simply picking up a gun and going out and just go, yeah, let's just go kill them. Let's just go kill the deers to help them. That's really unreasonable. So I from what I understand of this, I've seen some people talk about this. They suggest things like the what's the word I'm looking for? It's not sterilization, but you can get drugs that are out there that help them to breed less. There are some people that actually believe that they will self-regulate given a long enough time. So that's the other thing. But obviously in the meantime, if they are suffering, that's not great. There are loads of different people with lots of different opinions on this who are more specialist in this. Obviously, I'm not a specialist, but I will never vouch for, just get the rifle, get the crossbow, and let's kill them. Just go out and wipe them out. It's for their own good. I don't know about that. And I do know about that. I don't like that. I don't think that's right. So I don't agree with him on the hunting point here.
At the very right-hand corner, of very, very bad, are mega polluting and disruptive factory farms and the delivery trucks that take the meat from the farms to the slaughterhouse to store, blah, 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 blah. Like, all very, very bad, very polluting, very bad for the environment. Now, if you take that factory farming, and this is already happening all the time, it could happen faster, and make it ultra-modern, then all of that stuff is cleaned up significantly. You can take and still have factory farming, but make it much more environmentally clean. It is absolutely possible. It increases slightly the cost of meat at the store, but for a very good reason. And as innovation continues to proceed, the cost of meat goes back down. So it's like a very short-term cost for a very long-term benefit of not as much pollution. So that is much less. It's still bad, still have some pollution, but much less than with really like just not giving a fuck type industrial farming where like sludge goes out and into the river and you're like, meh, whatever, drop cigarette into sludge, forest fire. Next, are pasture-raised animals in limited areas. So clearly, if you just pasture-raise everything, some people have done the calculations. If we have pasture-raised animals, but we eat as much meat as a society as we do today, like 90% of the Earth's surface is going to be pastures. That means fucking deserts are gone, marshes are gone, rainforests are gone, almost no diversity, almost all the species are dead. Real bad deal. But if you have a very small number, relatively speaking, small area of farming, and you have pasture-raised animals in limited areas, then the environmental effects are not nearly as bad. Much, much less than any kind of industrialized attempt to farm.
Yeah, that will be true. And this is the problem with the environmental argument, that there are environmental ways to farm animals. There are environmentally friendly ways to do it. Not in a way that would supply the entire population with as much meat, dairy, eggs, etc. as they want, but it is possible in small scale to do it in an environmentally friendly way, which is why veganism isn't about the environment. The plant-based diet can have benefits for the planet. Absolutely, it can. But that is not the reason to be a vegan, because, as he's just said there, as he's shown, without ethics, there are ways to be an environmentally friendly meat eater. The reason that people should be vegan is because killing animals for a sandwich is not the right thing to do. It's horrible, violence, and there's no need for it. Eat plant-based. Don't put animals through all that shit. Don't breed them and stab them for sandwiches, right? It's an ethical thing. But this is, this is why the environmental argument falls through.
And then, of course, you have lab-grown meat, which has no farming with it whatsoever. I mean, it is an industrial process, so it does cost some environmental cost, but much less of one. And then at the very other end, actually in the plus side, is a responsible hunting of excessive populations. Like, I grew up mostly in Michigan, and in Michigan, the deer have no fucking natural predators because there's no more wolves and no more bears. And so the deer fuck like animals, literally. And then there's a shitload of them and they just fucking run into cars all the time. They get all crazy diseases, overpopulation, blah, blah, blah.
And all of that is the fault of humans who moved onto their land, started killing all of these other animals and forced them into places, forced them to live close together so they spread more diseases, etc., etc., etc. So it's missing that point that as I said earlier, I don't think it's fair to do all of that and then, we need to solve the problem we created, more violence. It's like what farmers do with dairy cows. They say, if we don't milk the cow, she'll get mastitis and then she'll get sick and die. Right, but you bred the cow, right? You brought her into the world and then you shoved your arms inside her and got her pregnant. And now you're patting yourself on the back because you milk her so she doesn't get mastitis. You caused this entire cycle to begin, and you'll continue this entire cycle, and you're constantly justifying it. We're doing the cow a favor. We're doing it all for her. No, you're not. You're doing it for yourself. The same thing here with the hunting. It's not for the sake of, we just care about the animals. It's because you enjoy shooting animals because you're sadistic, and you want to eat them because you like how they taste. It's nothing to do with a big environmental, we just want to be right for the planet. We just want to help animals. Nah, it's BS.
And if you allow for deer hunting, then the deer living in the natural wild, they're evolved to deal with predators. So it's all fair in love and war. And it turns out that that's a net benefit for essentially almost everyone involved, right? Definitely net benefit for the environment to allow responsible, sustainable hunting.
Not for everyone involved. No, it's not. It's not a net benefit for the animals that now you've decided to go out and shoot after you fuck with their environment and habitat. And no, it's not.
So there's the topography on
Disagree on the last bit.
All right. Number 5. This one's kind of really esoteric, so follow along with me, but it must be stated. This spectrum is the life-producing and enhancing potential of an animal we could potentially farm for food. So if you like life better than not life, than death or the absence of life, then you probably want to think a little bit ahead and realize that in order to preserve life, as much of it for as long as possible in universal time, you want life to, first of all, survive. Second of all, and have a really high ability to survive in the future. Diversify all kinds of different life. So if really bad shit happens to one way of living, other ways of living can still succeed. Like if fucking meteor toasted the dinosaurs, but small mammals were like, fuck it. We don't need all this fucking sunlight anyway. We can just eat detritus for a while until the shit clears up and then we'll be ourselves. Bacteria, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a real good thing for diversity here. And expansion. Expansion from one area to another. Like animals that can expand from one area to another are just better for life as a whole than animals that have just one little tiny specific niche and they go 5 feet one way or the other, they fucking die. And then, of course, expanding through continents, through the oceans. all around the world, and in something that's uniquely human to potentially other planets, other stars in the entire universe.
I'm trying to keep up with this. I am not entirely sure where he's going with this. It's interesting though.
Almost certainly, if we don't fucking kill ourselves here on Earth, will happen, right? Only humans can do a couple of real cool tricks, which gives them a huge unique advantage to the argue of why it's especially bad to try to farm people. And conversely, why vegan arguments that say, why don't we just farm people, don't really hold a ton of water. Only humans can prevent Earth-ending comets and asteroids, right? Any kind of animal other than human, when the comet is coming, its ability to do anything about it is the following.
Wait, is he just saying that these are the reasons to preserve and prioritize human life over other life? Because we could stop a comet, for example, or go to space. Is that? I guess that's the point he might be making.
That's it. They look up and go, what the fuck? They might not even look up. Boom. Earth is done. Now, humans can launch thermonuclear warheads, several, 100,000 miles in advance. They blow up right next to the comet and asteroid, pings it just enough off course. We never have to fucking worry about it again, right? Holy crap. Okay, the mere existence of humans combined with thermonuclear weapons, extra atmospheric delivery capacity, and advanced targeting is like the greatest thing that's ever happened to planet Earth as far as the conservation of the biome. Because like asteroids and comets are a big fucking deal.
I don't know about that. I mean, if we defended the Earth from an asteroid, it wouldn't undo the insane damage that we've done to the Earth. It wouldn't be like everything just suddenly got better and all the problems we've created and all the hell we've created for all the other animals here just goes away because we stopped a comet hitting it. I think actually a lot of animals would, with the position they're in, pigs and cows and chickens, especially farmed animals, would welcome a comet destroying all life on this planet because of the hell they're living through. So I'm not on board with his logic here.
And they're just really not nearly as big of a deal anymore because humans have the potential to detect them and go, fuck that, we're not dying and blow it out of the sky. Big deal for all animals and all life, okay? Next, humans can prevent animals from going extinct that are on the brink of extinction. Like if we just decide, and a lot of times we do this with like a sheer audacity of like what's cuddly and cute. Like we decide that, bald eagles, really like them. They're on our fucking flag or whatever. They're not on the American flag, are they? They're in our American lore. We just don't want them to go extinct. People go and they take classes at a university and the extra credit is you go into a conservatory and you feed baby eagles with the pipette and you train them and they fly off in the wild, and we could literally have saved many species from extinction. Of course, we've caused a ton of extinction too, but only because we are powerful enough to do so. We're also powerful enough to save a bunch of animals.
Powerful enough to do so. Don't know about that. Stupid enough to do so. Probably more accurate. But yeah, he's right. We do have power, and we can definitely save animals. People come together, we can achieve quite a lot. I'll give him that. It is possible. Ito Tofu, thank you so much for the tip. David Rams always delivers the best vegan content. Kapow. Thank you. Appreciate that. Doing my best over here, guys. Broccoli's in the chat if you agree with... I'm going to burp. Excuse me. That was a bad time to burp. Broccoli's in the chat if you agree with Ito Tofu.
No other animal has that capability, at least willingly, right? And the biggest one is humans are currently the only animal on Earth able to innovate to a sufficient degree to eventually spread life to other planets and stars. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when in maybe 100,000 years, you look outside view of our galaxy, you're going to be like, oh my God, it's teeming with life. Humans did it. Humans fucking did it. Mm-hmm. Cows and pigs and chickens sure as fuck didn't do that shit, right? They're valuable in their own way, but they're not valuable in that way.
Is this kind of just more... It feels like it might be just a dressed up argument for humans can do a load of things that animals can't do, so therefore we're more important. It feels like it's that whole... That scene out of iRobot where he's like, oh, these are just robots, and could a robot write a symphony? And the robot's like, can you? To Will Smith, and Will Smith's like, like, no, you couldn't write a symphony. You couldn't do any of that stuff. So, it feels kind of like it's that. Like, Dr. Mike, are you going to travel to the stars? Are you going to create these passenger machines? What do you call them? That go to the moon? Is that are you going to do that? Well, no, you're not going to do that. So then, so you're not as valuable as Elon Musk then? Or is that how we're going with this? I don't know. Weird. A little bit weird.
So... from the perspective of what has the most life-enhancing and life-producing potential, and also not just producing life, but enhancing it, making more happiness, for example, for other creatures. We can do a little bit of a ranking, a little bit of a spectrum. So here it is. If you kill Elon Musk and eat him for food, right? People are always saying, like, super crazy leftists to be like, kill the rich or eat the rich. Like, the rich are the most productive people on the planet in a free society. They invent all this. I don't want Bill Gates to get eaten. He made Microsoft Excel. I'm using Microsoft PowerPoint to read this shit right now. I have nothing to do. And they go, who the fuck invented YouTube? YouTube, if we kill like Sergey Brin or whatever who has Google, there'd be no YouTube. It would be really shitty. Forget all that. Elon Musk may be the guy or someone like him to push us into the fucking stars, to colonize the fucking universe. Eating him for food, humongous waste of potential. Bad idea for life as a whole, right? Really bad idea.
Funny.
Now, what if you wander along somewhere in some crazy other country and you see someone like killing puppies for food? Terrible thing to think about. Your first thought could be all the suffering and pain, which is completely valid. But on this spectrum alone, you could be like, man, those puppies would probably provide a whole lot more happiness to someone as a pet than they would as a piece of meat or something like that. Like, there's tons of other animals that aren't particularly good as pets. At least these could provide more happiness. So killing puppies, at least on that regard, is a really, really, really terrible thing.
Yeah, it's also for the sake of the puppy themselves, dude. Come on, man. It's all, I guess, well, I mean, at the end of the day, look, this is a video for humans, by a human, and by a human who, well, by the sounds of things, he understands suffering, he understands animals and what they go through to a certain extent, but it doesn't seem like he's put himself in the animal's position thoroughly enough for him to see anything from their perspective. A puppy doesn't want to be killed for the same reason you don't want to be killed. They have a will to live, like you have a will to live. That's enough of a reason to seriously consider not killing them, not just because you like the company. And when I say seriously consider, what I mean is you weigh up your options. Okay, do I need to kill the puppy? Am I going to die if I don't kill the puppy? No. I've got a supermarket. I've got other options, like beans. That puppy is a little life that values their life, has feelings and emotions, probably likes, dislikes, and feelings towards other animals, and they have the whole thing going on. They have a whole experience going on, subjective experience of life and the world. It's very intricate, like mine. I'll go for the beans, right? It's not, well, that puppy's fluffy and they could make somebody happy, so I'll go for the beans. I mean, call me crazy, but I think the first version of the reason not to kill the puppy is the one that makes the most sense.
Not as bad as killing Elon Musk, but pretty bad. Then we get into real murky territory. Late-term abortion. When you commit late-term abortion, you have a fairly developed fetus, then you're essentially ending a potential human life, and that's, kind of a bad thing. Like, you want to avoid it as much as possible because that person could have been born.
He's heading into dangerous waters here.
And then become hyperproductive and help trillions of other people. Like, if Bill Gates was aborted, the human economy would be trillions of dollars more contracted, so we wouldn't have Microsoft Excel and all this other beautiful shit that he made. Shit like that, right? Early term abortion, not as bad because that thing is not sufficiently as developed and it doesn't have as much life-creating potential because it's not as well on its way. Still, you want to avoid it, sort of casually going around getting abortions, but not as bad as late-term abortion, which is why most people, even when they're pro-choice, they're not like, yeah, fucking whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, most people are like, hey, if I want an abortion, when should I get it? Like, as soon as possible. The earlier the better. And that's probably really good advice on this spectrum alone. Now, if we go all the way down to the end, we find that if we have a situation in which we're eating insects and crustaceans and maybe most kinds of fish, that actually might make people happier and more productive because they like eating meat products, they like the higher protein diet, and it might actually expand human civilization marginally more.
I think like what he's doing here, maybe I've missed this from the start, but he is being very purely philosophical and overly analytical. And he did say at the beginning he was going to do this with no emotion, would try with no emotion at all. But I think, unfortunately, in my opinion, I feel like he's gone so far down the other end that he's dismissing things that definitely, there's dismissing factors. Well, he did say at the beginning, if you see anything, any nuances that I've missed, let me know in the comments, right? And I have done through here. What I've been doing here is I don't believe I've been coming at this from a too emotional perspective when I've criticized his points, but I'm pointing out the nuances he's missed in these very, very, very logical statements he's made. Because these statements, they do lack logic. I don't see I don't see how it's useful to isolate something like this. Does this enhance a human life? That you have to consider things from that perspective. You have to put humans at the absolute top, the most important of everything. And if okay, they can live or die because of whether or not, depending on whether or not they are beneficial or not beneficial to humans. This is something that actually, it's not only him who's done this. Sadhguru also did this before. Somebody asked him, should we stop? Sadhguru is a famous Indian guru, by the way. Someone asked him, shouldn't we stop milking cows and breeding milking cows and killing them and making cows work? That was the other thing. In India, they make them work. They make them drag really heavy things around in the hot sun. India's super hot most of the year, and it's really horrible. And he said, if they don't bring any benefit to humans, what do we do with them? Oh, we won't let them live, will we? We'll kill them. They'll go straight to the slaughterhouse, right? And what he was translating that to what he was really saying is the same as Mike's saying here. This guy, Dr. Mike, is saying here. He's saying in this case, in this number 5, their value and their life or death is completely determined on whether they are beneficial to people or not. And that's fucked up. That's really fucked up. Why would we do it that way? Why enable people to be so selfish? This whole point needs to be argued against by people like me who say what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if they enhance a human life or not. They don't live only to enhance human lives. The world isn't here simply for us to benefit from. It's here because it's here. It's like asking, what's the purpose of a mountain? It doesn't have a purpose. It just is. What's the purpose of a cow? They don't have a purpose. They just are. They're just here. We assign the purposes to them. What's the purpose of a mountain? It's to be climbed by me. No, it isn't. You've decided that. Now, that's harmless. Climbing a mountain's harmless most of the time. But in the case of a cow, killing a cow is not harmless. You've just given them a purpose that is to be on your plate. That is unreasonable and unfair. And we need to get out of this mindset of we are the top, we are the most important. This human supremacist driven by mass religion mindset of we come first in every aspect and everything else is here for us. It's what's led us to all the different problems of history, into human problems, into species problems with other groups of humans, and now that a lot of that's been taken care of in the West, to mostly taken care of, it's still existing with other animals. Like, oh, yeah, women aren't here for men. We've established that. Other people of other ethnicities aren't here for white people. We've established that too in the West now. Great. Most people are on board with that. Okay, but animals are still here for us, and their worth is based on how we see them. It's like just that last thing to tick off, huh?
That we reach for the stars sooner and everything's super hunky-dory and everyone's happy ever after sooner and more profoundly. And you certainly can't say that, like, look, if you're eating crickets and someone's like, how dare you? Crickets have such a life-expanding potential. It's like, they do? And are we running out of crickets? Like, are we making crickets extinct by eating them? Hell no. So just on this perspective, if you're eating insects or eating bugs or eating like shrimp and stuff like that, you're not really reducing life-enhancing potential almost any case, especially if they're farmed. Because like if you farm shrimp, it doesn't have dick to do with the free swimming shrimp. They can go on and evolve into other stuff, but farm shrimp kind of just like sort of no upside, no downside in that case.
Yeah, I already established that none of that matters, so...
Next,
in my opinion,
some more meaty philosophical stuff.
Oh, God.
The spectrum of self-directed freedom.
This is getting 7 levels deep, balls deep into philosophy stuff here. I don't know. Let's see if it makes any more sense where we're at now.
One of the big arguments that you hear from folks that are super pro-animal rights, to their credit, would say things like, well, you wouldn't want to be farmed for food as a human.
Yep.
And that's true. And it's true for many animals, but it's not exactly true that all animals are equal in their desires for freedom and self-direction. For example, here's our spectrum. If you farm for food, humans in their prime, with goals and dreams and desires and years of personal individual freedom as a precedent for what they expect, you grind them up for food, you're doing a real terrible thing on the self-directed freedom. I mean, you're robbing. This is terrible, right? Next worst thing, just as an example on the spectrum, is if you take like bald eagles, which are or condors, like they have an effective range of hundreds of miles. They like to do this shit. They don't like to do anything else. They fly around real slow and look at stuff. If you take them motherfuckers and put them in tiny little cages, they're going to have a bad time of it. Not human grade suffering bad, because they're not that smart, but bad, okay? And you are really robbing them of a desire to be free. Down a little bit is like lizards and crocodiles. Okay, at least for some of these subspecies, it's pretty clear that if you take a lizard and you feed it enough food and you give it a warm plate to sit on and things around it smell pretty decent compared to what it's used to, it can live in like a 3x3 foot square and not give a flying fuck. It doesn't want to go anywhere. Like that yearning, does a cabin fever that you get? It doesn't get it because there's no analog to that. Like all it needs is basic desires met and it's good to go. It's good to go. Like us thinking that it wants to roam is like an alien giving you this pseudo environment, this matrix environment where you get to live for like quadrillions of years and you get to have sex with anyone you want and all the riches in the world and you just live happiness for forever, way longer than you normally would. And the aliens, other aliens are looking at that and be like, I can't believe you're fooling that person. You know, like they want to be out creating algorithms to expand the universe into a hyper-intelligent machine. You're like, do they really? Like most people don't even know what that means. Sure as hell, if you even explain it, they're like, fuck that. I want to live in fucking paradise. These aliens are putting me in paradise. So for like a lot of like sort of more primordial creatures like crocs and lizards and stuff like that, some of them are on that tail end where like if you give them enough food and just let them sit on something warm or like swim around a little bit, they're rocking golden. They have no more going for them. They're not interested anymore and they wouldn't be able to understand what that means. Further down are insects. Like insects, fundamentally the insect nervous system in many cases is like what you can call an automaton. Like there's no self-reflection, there's no ego, there's no desire, there's really no drive. They're just like input-output machines, like in the very simplest sense of the word. If we eat them for food, we're not robbing them of their freedom. They don't have a concept of freedom. They have no appreciation for it. There's no analog for it. It's just not a thing. It's just not a thing. So taking this whole thing together, you can start to see like, okay, farming pigs and cows and stuff like that's pretty bad, but not as bad as like if we were farming bald eagles and not nearly as bad as if we were farming human beings. Take that for what it is.
Yeah, he's taking, okay, so he thinks farming is just keeping animals in places and it's just that they're confined and that's the only bad thing about farming. These animals, it's not like they're being taken out of the wild and put into a farm. They're literally bred only with the intention of ending their life in a gas chamber or being electrocuted or being stabbed in the throat, shot in their head. And the farming process itself is designed simply to just get the most out of their bodies in the shortest time possible so they can turn them into products and get the next one in, right? So the farming it's not just the captivity that is the issue. He's got a point in that if you can use it in the sense in the idea of like rescuing animals. So if you see a dog outside, dog's sick, street dog, he's a street dog, sick, has a problem, and it's a problem that is a recurring problem, some kind of skin disease, some kind of thing, right? If you take the dog, you bring them home, you start to give them a more domestic dog life with the treatments, good food, walkies. No, it's not going to be freedom, and the dog might yearn for freedom, but you're doing a good thing by this dog because if they had freedom, they would suffer a lot. So you're doing a good thing by them. In that case, they may not actually yearn for freedom and self-direction. If they get all these things given to them, they might miss the outdoors a little bit, but they get that walk. So you could argue that that's a pretty good thing. But that's when you're rescuing an animal. You couldn't make that same point for farming or for pet animals because you're not doing them a favor. You're taking them away from somewhere where they could arguably be a lot more happy and a lot in the place where they're supposed to be, I suppose. And you're doing it for your own benefit, not for their benefit. If it's for their benefit, then maybe I could understand where it's coming from. It makes sense. But if it's not for their benefit and it actively doesn't help them in any way, then it's for your benefit and it's probably going against them. So in farming, it is always against them. In farming, it is always creating animals to simply abuse their bodies and turn them into products. So this point here, again, works for rescuing animals, I would say, in some level, but that's it. That's it. What's going on with the chat? You guys having problems in the chat? I haven't done anything to the chat. He said it's something's wrong with it. I can see all your comments, but don't know. Maybe if you put too many emojis in, it won't let you do it. I think if you try and put a link in, it won't let you do it either. And that's it. That's all I've got on. No links, and sometimes YouTube doesn't like lots of emojis, I guess. But the chat's no, I don't think the chat's in a loop. You just posted and copy and pasted. Anyway, whatever. Annie can sort it out. If you guys are having some weird debate in the chat that you just copy and paste in comments or something like that, and maybe don't do that. YouTube might think you're a spammer and block your comments. All right, it's not me though, and it's not Annie.
Just by itself for now. Number 7, suffering of bystanders. Okay, it causes a lot of people a ton of psychological pain to know that animals are being killed en masse, right? I mean, it's definitely something to consider if you're compassionate. It should bring you no joy to know that right now there's an industrial grade slaughter of pigs and cows and all these other animals in unreal, insane conditions. It's not hurting you personally, but holy shit, is it fucking evil? That's definitely a thing. And if you're saying, hey, look, you can be vegan if you want, but just let me eat my meat, it's really fucked up, because it's like saying, like, hey, look, like, you know, like, let me have my own little holocaust of people I hate. Don't you worry, you know, you like people at your own. I'm never going to come after your people. I just want to, you know, have my own people to torture and kill. Like, what? Like, I know you have those people. I stay awake at night thinking about how I can fucking kill you and rescue them. So this is definitely a bad deal, right? But again, there is also a spectrum here. Let's take example of the spectrum. So the pain of losing a lifetime dearest loved one, even if they clear all the other spectrums, is pretty bad. Okay, really, really bad, about as bad as it gets. Tons of suffering. Because it's not just an animal. Like, you think about, like, how bad do I feel if a pig dies right now? Like, I don't know that pig. It's not a human. But if it's a human and you know who they are and you love them for your whole life and then they die, like farmed for food, holy shit, as bad as it gets. Even if you're not the one that killed them, even if you're not responsible, that's really, really bad. It's not your pain. You're not the one being killed. They are. But just that psychic pain of knowing that that's happening to them, super terrible. Next down the list, as an example, is the pain of having to, eat your pet, right? And, there's examples in the American farming history where, like, a child will get attached to a pet pig and sort of doesn't know, maybe age 7 or 8, that pig's going to end up being next year's bacon. And at some point they realize that's the case and like, holy fucking shit. All right, bacon does not taste the same if it's your friend, the pet pig. Not as bad as if it was like your dad, but like really, really bad still. Really, really bad. Down the list is knowing that factory farm exists and knowing what they do. And amplified, the fact that the scale of the slaughter is so insane as far as numbers of animals. Gee, from an individual emotional perspective, the average person's probably more hurt by eating their own pet pig than conceptualizing that like millions of pigs die a year. So just from a human suffering perspective, I would probably still place the eating of your pet as more insane and more intense.
Yeah, he's right. We identify more with individual animals than we do with groups of animals. But he's also right about what he said earlier, that the animals being killed and the numbers they are, it is very psychologically distressing, and especially for the people that have seen the undercover footage from these places and from what's happening. As somebody, he seems like he has seen that, which is surprising to me that he's not a vegan. And maybe he's going to explain why he isn't in this video. But for somebody who is very aware of all of that, that's a surprise that he wouldn't have made the change. Or maybe he did. I don't know. As far as I know, he isn't vegan, but maybe I don't know. Maybe he was considering it at this time. I don't know.
But there's definitely something to be said, like, if you really think it through, and this is where tons of vegans have excellent points, like, a lot of people are not vegan and they know what's going on. They're totally understanding of what it is they're sort of complicit in, but some people just never thought about it. Like, you do realize right now, millions of animals are dying for your dumb ass to sit here and be like, I love pork. And if you're like, yep, I've thought that through, and on the trade-off, I'm fine with it, respect, I'll shake your hand. But a lot of people are like, oh my God, I can't fucking do this. And that's total respect. That's a perfectly fine way to go, right?
Let me just rewind that bit. Sorry, I was trying to see if he was vegan or not. I couldn't find it. Let me just see what he said, though, anyway.
But a lot of people are like, oh my God, Oh my God, I can't. People just never thought about it. They're totally understanding of what it is they're sort of complicit in, but some people just never thought about it. Like, you do realize right now, millions of animals are dying for your dumb ass to sit here and be like, I love pork. And if you're like, yep, I've thought that through, and on the trade-off, I'm fine with it, respect, I'll shake your hand. But a lot of people are like, oh my God, I can't fucking do this. And that's total respect. That's a perfectly fine way to go.
So yeah, the point there, the respect, I'll shake your hand. If you see all of this horror and you're like, oh, I'm okay with the trade-off. Why would you respect somebody that says that, does that? I don't get why they deserve your respect and a handshake. If you brought to somebody the point of, hey, listen, you say they're about to buy a dog, and you say, look, you do realize dog farming is a very real thing, and these places are horrible. They're often very abusive to the animals. They live in horrible conditions. The breeders, as in the mums and dads, they have just a horrible life. They just pump out puppies and they force them to breed and pump out puppies, and it's all for money. They live in their own piss and shit. And that person said, listen, hey, look, I'm willing to make that trade-off. I'm happy with that trade-off. Would you shake their hand and say, yeah, okay, yeah, I respect that? No, you wouldn't. You'd say, you're a selfish piece of shit, bro. What's wrong with you? Go to a shelter and rescue a dog. You can get rescue puppies. Why would you go and fund that industry that I've just explained to you is absolutely disgraceful? What's wrong with you? Are you okay? How can you be so selfish? I don't want to be your friend anymore. I don't want to be friends with somebody like that. That's the more likely scenario that most people in the world would come out with when faced with a friend who wants to go and fund a disgusting puppy mill versus rescuing a dog. Why would anybody want to be friends with somebody like that? Now take that and apply it to the animal rights, to the vegan, specifically diet related question. So you just found out what happens to pigs. You just found out, you tell them, hey, look, you know, gas chambers like they used in World War II, they're using them for pigs right now. And if they don't use that, they electrocute them in the face and then they stab them in the throat. And they're doing this every single day, and it's all for bacon. And it's totally unnecessary. The pigs they don't deserve that. No animal deserves that. That's really horrible. And they say, well, I like bacon, so I'm happy for that trade-off. Shake their hand and tell them you respect them? No. At that point, I would have to hold myself back, bite my tongue to not call them a scumbag and tell them to get away from me. And actually, spoiler alert, I've got a video coming up where this whole situation played out exactly as I've just explained it. Pointed to a screen, and on the screen was some footage of a farmer smashing a pig's head in, a baby pig, like smashing them, killing them, right? And I pointed to it, talking to these three guys, and I said, hey, you think this is okay? Because they just said they think it's all fine. I said, what about this? You think this is okay? What's happening to this baby pig here? And they said, yeah, it's just food. It's just food. And I said, okay, that's fine. Go away. And they said, why? And I said, because you're scumbags. Go away. I don't want to talk to you. And they were like, no. And I was like, get the fuck away. Go the fuck away from here. Get away from the event. Don't want to talk to you. Leave. And then they were saying, we're not scumbags. We're not scumbags. I said, why are you not a scumbag? And then again, he repeated, it's just food. I was like, yeah, see you later. Go, leave. And that's pretty much how it panned out. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was that's not the best way of handling it, because there's lots of other ways it could have gone. But occasionally, I think that's also kind of powerful too, the confrontation element of it. You never know what that meant to them. Nobody likes to be confronted like that. Nobody likes to, the heart rate. They weren't filming or anything, so it wasn't for content. I had the fucking camera going though, so I got it for content. But yeah, who knows? Maybe they'll one day think about that and they'll think, why was that guy so worked up? Why did he tell me I was a scumbag? You never know, right? But I would not shake their hand and tell them I respect them. Unreal.
Right? On the other end, there are people that are so kind of insanely pro-animal rights, they're just not making any more sense. So some people think that wearing even fake fur, not real fur, things that look like fur, it makes them feel icky inside because it looks enough like real fur and it reminds them enough of death and suffering that they think fake fur should be illegal.
I've never in my life met anyone, animal rights, vegan, whatever, who thinks fake fur should be illegal. Ever. Dude, I want to believe that he didn't just make that up, but have you ever come across anyone who wants fake fur to be illegal, guys? Let me know in the chat. I've never heard that before.
Gee whiz, that doesn't exactly tug at the heartstrings of most people. Now, it's totally understandable if you feel like that. total respect, but it's not going to be the most convincing argument you get to ever tell anyone. So if you are an animal rights activist, I probably would start at saying, look, let's just talk about how it would feel to get your pet pig killed. You can now imagine that times 10 million a year or something like that.
Yeah, so that's good. It's focusing on the individual animal. Actually, this is interesting. There's some of the best advice on how to do animal rights activism from somebody who's not a vegan that I've ever heard. If you're an animal rights activist or a vegan, probably better to start with how would you feel if your own pet pig was killed for bacon? Now times that by 1,000,000. That's a good start. It's a good way to focus on the individual animal. Imagine if this were someone you loved, your dog or your cat, or take the personality of your dog, everything you love about him, place it in the mind of a pig. How do you feel about that pig now? Well, I would feel really bad for that pig. Well, that's because you've accepted and you've acknowledged they're a little personality just like your dog. Now just bear in mind the fact that every single pig has a personality in the same way. And now think about how horrific it is, what happens to them. So that's actually pretty good advice. As I said, best advice I've seen from a non-vegan on activism. Frode Overly, thank you for the tip, mate. Are pro-choice vegans fine with egg sexing as long as the egg is abhorted, apart from the other horrendous shite that happens in the egg industry? If yes, is it okay to crush abandoned eggs in nature? I read it out loud, but I wasn't digesting it, so let me read it again. Pro-choice vegans, apart from... I don't understand the question necessarily. Are you talking about in chickens? In the egg industry, yeah. If yes, is it okay to crush abandoned eggs in nature? I don't understand. Honestly, dude, I don't understand the question so much, to be honest with you. Maybe somebody else can answer in the chat. But yeah, I'll put it back up on the screen again so you guys can read it. But I don't really understand the concept. It's not really relevant to what we're getting into. And yeah, you're the same. You've popped up a couple times, I think, with the same similar questions. So you still want to get onto that, but that's a whole topic. All the pro-life, pro-choice stuff. There's a whole other thing. So yeah, I think I said last time that would be, if I was ever going to talk about that, it would be in a entirely separate podcast not on this channel, because I don't think it's relevant to this channel, unless obviously if a non-vegan brought it up and wanted to debate it, then obviously I would have to get into it with them. But like into vegan discussion on that, not so much. But thank you again for the tip. If you have something else to say, let us know. Obviously, I'll read it out, but we're not going to delve deep into that topic on this channel for sure.
I wouldn't start with like, what's up with that fake fur you're wearing, you fucking carnist cocksucker, and be like,
he knows what carnist means. That's cool.
What? And even it's not real. It's not real. Like, well, it looks like it's real, and it's honoring a history of slaughter. You're like, okay, you're really stretching at shit here, right? So that's the spectrum. Can be really very nominal, non-suffering, that exaggerated for comedic effect, all the way up to like super, super intense shit. Okay. All right. Next up, number 8. This one's really straightforward. Rarity and conservation. Okay. There's value in not killing off entire species of animals, if for nothing else than scientific purposes of just knowing they exist, studying them, and sort of admiring all the beautiful taxonomy of nature. So on that note, like if you're hunting and eating bald eagles and they're fucking endangered, what the fuck? That's insane. Don't do that, right? If you were really pro-farming, a lot of farming pastures really displace forests and marshes and other sort of ecosystems of wildlife, and they just by proxy kill a fucking shitload of animals, probably leading to a shitload of extinction. Not as bad as just outright going after the endangered species and killing them and eating them, like, you know, what happened with the dodo, essentially, but really, really fucking bad in the grand scheme. And then all the way down to eating farmed insects. Okay, like if we have farms set up to, allow for essentially the manufacture of grasshoppers, and then we eat the grasshoppers or crickets, you know, if you say like, that's fucked up, man, you know, don't you want to conserve crickets? To be like, are we fucking running out of crickets? Are we running out of bugs? Are there not enough crickets in the wild that we're worried about farming them to extinction?
Well, that's a really weird point. You can't farm them to extinction because you're farming them. Farming doesn't... Okay, so the only way that farming displaces wild animals is because you're encroaching on the land. But once you've done that, it's not like breeding more pigs makes wild pigs go extinct. So this point, this rarity or conservation, it only applies specifically for if people are going out and trying to hunt animals, but it doesn't apply to farming, and it doesn't apply to the reasons for people to eat a plant-based diet and not support the animal agriculture industry in all the different ways that it exists. That's the reasons to not do that. The reasons to not do that don't have much of an impact in the sense that he's saying here. Like I said, all the ocean dead zones, all the species extinction coming from the pollution and the land, killing of all the land and wiping out all deforestation and stuff for land for animal farming. That's where the point is. But simply breeding pigs doesn't mean that wild pigs go extinct. So I don't understand what he's getting at here. And I guess I forgot the point I was going to make, actually, which was that, yes, he's trying to use the fact that breeding animals in a farm is okay because we're not going to run out of animals in the wild, like crickets. Oh, but we're not going to run out of crickets, so it's okay to farm crickets. But these two things don't meet. It doesn't make sense. They don't affect each other necessarily. So what was the point I was trying to make? I don't know. I guess I'm just pointing out the flaw in his logic here. The reason to breed or not breed pigs, cows, and chickens has nothing to do with wild pigs, cows, and chickens. That's the point I'm making. Because they don't interact with each other. They're completely separate.
Insane. So on that note, eating farm insects looks pretty good, and eating bald eagles looks pretty bad, and everything in between looks somewhere in between. Number 9. Yeah, believe it or not, we're training your nutrition channel. This only gets one slide, is nutrition.
By the way, this was 10 reasons to go vegan. But the things he's been bringing up, they've not been reasons to go vegan. Actually, the only one that was, I think, was the environment one. And he's made a couple of pro-vegan points, but they've all been undermined by him saying it's a spectrum and there's some things you can do to animals that are okay and some things that aren't. So they've not been reasons to go vegan. It's more been a case of 10 explanations of what you could do to animals without feeling too bad about it, in my opinion. That's more what this has been. But somebody did go vegan for watching this, so I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm missing the point, but I don't feel like I am missing the point. But I'd like to ask that individual what part of this made them go vegan, actually. That's quite interesting to me. Because do you guys see a reason? Do you guys see this influencing people to go vegan? And if so, if you think yes, it could, explain to me how and overall what your take is on this and why you think someone would go vegan off the back of it. I think that so far, the points he's made about factory farming and the points he's made about animal suffering and how big the scale is have been quite good. That it's good that he points that out. But like I said, I feel like he's kind of undermined himself with some of the other points. So I don't know.
To be very particular, infants and young children almost certainly need some animal protein. If it does not come from mother's breast milk, then it probably has to come from usually animal-derived baby formula. So making entire society vegan, difficult, possible with some technological advances, but certainly tough.
That isn't true. That's just not true. So women breastfeed, right? Okay. They can do breast milk for their own babies, and then if they can't do that, they can get donor breast milk for the baby. And if they can't do that, there are vegan mums out there who have, and maybe this is 2 years ago, so maybe it wasn't around then, but I'm pretty sure it was, where there are formulas that have the essential nutrients for babies that are not animal derived. So no, they almost certainly don't need animal protein. That's not true. At this point now, there are multiple perfectly healthy, regular humans who have been raised with zero animal protein apart from breast milk. So infants and young children, so your young children still aren't breastfeeding, are they? And there are plenty of people who've been plant-based from then on, entirely plant-based, meaning once they've weaned off the mum's breast milk. So that's just wrong.
Certainly tough. However, for the rest of us, human adults, with just a moderate inconvenience and having to take some supplements and counting some macros and micros, you can probably get the same health, the same performance, the same everything, and never eat meat again, and essentially suffer zero health or performance consequences, right?
It's true.
Now, if you have seafood and fish, then you can get ultra high quality protein and really, really healthy animal fat very easily. And hint, hint, wink, wink, it also ranks really low on animal suffering in a ton of the other spectra, because it's just not the same as eating like a pig with 50 trillion different emotions. You eating a shrimp, I assume it has few, if any, emotions at all, probably no emotions at all, right? So on nutrition, the vegan argument is great, but I don't want you to think that I'm saying the vegans won that argument. What I want you to think is, if you think you have to eat like dead, bleeding cows, bullshit, you don't have to fucking do that. And if you think you have to go vegan and you get all these nutritional benefits that are special, also not true. There's nothing special about being vegan. You can be just as healthy being not vegan. And a very interesting trade-off for really, really optimizing health and the morality of the situation on all the other spectra is like eating seafood and fish seems to be a pretty good middle ground. Pretty good middle ground.
Again, we're assuming that he's assuming that fish have no emotions, basically, or very, very, very low level of suffering. But again, that's easy to say when you are a mammal and you perceive other mammals to be like you because we are similar. But then you look at marine life like an octopus. They're very complicated, and now more and more research is showing how smart they actually are, and cognitively and they have a subjective experience, they have awareness more than we ever thought they had. So that's an example of I don't know if octopus considered fish, but anyway, there are marine life that have been eaten by a lot of people for a long time, and now we're finding out they're actually extremely intelligent and complicated, and by no means just a sea plant, a sea vegetable. So why would you assume that fish couldn't be the same? I mean, people were assuming that cows and pigs were mindless until not that long ago. Just the fact that a fish has a subjective experience, which has been shown to be true. Fish can be trained, for God's sake. They can be trained to do things and respond to things. And the people are still learning. There are people who spend their entire careers researching fish. There's just been a documentary out about fish and how complex they are, and the different emotions and the different things they can feel and the things they can learn and things the way they think and things like that. That I don't know that documentary is called, by the way. It's what was it called? It's by Ryuji. If you guys know Ryuji, I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen him talking about it. How conscious can a fish be? It's called. And how conscious can a fish be? So yeah, just to go out and say here, oh, it's fine to eat fish because of this. It's just based on wild assumptions. You don't need to, so why bother? You just said you'll have zero health or performance consequences from eating plant-based as long as you do it correctly. So why the hell would you go and eat animals that can suffer? Even if you think it's low suffering, why would you want to put any suffering on any animal when you don't need to?
Lastly, and I do mean lastly because this is by far the least ranked thing, when I start saying it, you'll probably tend to agree, is taste and enjoyment. Okay, almost everyone has the desire to eat meat. It is a human universal termed meat hunger. It has its own term. Okay, you can just be regular hungry, and you can be meat hungry, where they feed you and get as much bread and beer and veggies as you want, and then you're like, I want fucking meat. Even vegans have this, which is why vegan cuisines often have fake meats that are designed to replicate the texture and taste of meat.
Right. Let's get into this. The reason that vegan cuisine replicates the taste and texture of meat is not because vegans get meat cravings. It's because you're accustomed to the way you've been eating your whole life. And we have hundreds and hundreds of years of how we prepare food and what it tastes like and what it looks like and what it feels like. Why would the vegans suddenly just say, hey, do you know what? After all these years and years and years of this, I just want to eat something entirely, completely, and utterly brand new and different. No, we crave the stuff that we've had our whole lives. So let's make the stuff that we like vegan so that we don't have all the violence and the blood and the suffering and the disease and all that horrible shit. And we still get all the things that we like because we've grown up with it. Like if you take somebody from rural, poor country where all they eat is plant foods and legumes and things like that, and put a slab of steak in front of them, they're going to say, what's this? They're not going to be into it. They're going to have to learn to like it. This idea of meat craving is just inherent to us is wrong. It's wrong. For example, I've seen Thai people in Western countries. They go to Thai restaurants because they can't handle and don't want to eat Western food. They don't like burgers. They don't like steaks. They don't like fried potatoes. They don't like pies. They don't like all that stuff. They want noodles. They want soup, and they want soft, squidgy, this Thai food, right? It's not like we crave what we grew up with, is what I'm trying to say. It's all about your environment. It's all about what's around you. It's not specifically a meat craving. This opinion he's got here is coming from somebody who clearly he is addicted to meat. He's addicted to all the flavors and the textures and the tastes. Most people are, in one way or another, addicted to food. We get comfort from the food we grew up with. So trying to replicate whatever that may be into a vegan version, it doesn't mean that there's an innate craving for meat. That doesn't make any sense. As I said, Thai people will crave vegan Thai food. They'll switch it, right? Americans will want the same food, American food, but vegan. French people will want the same French food, but vegan. And that's usually cheese for them, not necessarily meat, for example, right?
Okay. Really illustrating that humans did co-evolve with eating meat substantially, right? Which is probably pretty much settled science at this point.
Wait.
Meat, substantial taste of meat. Okay. Really illustrating that humans did co-evolve with eating meat substantially. Right?
We co-evolved with eating meat substantially. Co-evolved, does it mean that our evolution took place while we were consuming meat? That doesn't mean it's the reason for the evolution. That wouldn't make sense. I like how I've heard some people say some really funny stuff. I saw this comment the other day saying, our ancestors ate meat for a reason. I saw someone say that, right? And it's funny because that's a really common point, isn't it? Our ancestors ate meat for a reason. You hear that, and oftentimes we just throw it away. We're like, yeah, whatever, that's a stupid comment. It doesn't matter, our ancestors did blah, blah, blah. But here's what's funny about it. Think about it. Break this down. Our ancestors ate meat for a reason. So wait a minute. Are you trying to tell me that cavemen had an innate understanding, or early humans, the earliest humans, had this understanding of nutrition and what meat meant for nutrition and how they wanted to build muscle, so they knew they had to get more protein? And what do you mean for a reason? No, they didn't eat meat for a reason. There was no reasoning going into it. They were doing what they needed to do to survive. They tried things, most likely. They tried things out, and they worked out some way to survive. They somehow worked out that, okay, if we eat this way, we have more chance of surviving a rough winter, or we have more chance of surviving in some way or another. It's not like they were analyzing the nutritional density of the food they were eating. It's for a reason. These cavemen scientists figured it out. No, that's not how it went down. And here's the other point here, which is really funny. Considering that our ancestors didn't have access to all the knowledge that we have now, didn't have access to testing, didn't have access to any of the things, the understanding of health, the understanding of how our bodies work and what things make our health worse and better, blah, 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 blah. There's a pretty damn high chance they got it completely wrong. There's a pretty high chance our ancestors made decisions that we're still making now based on what they did that have been incorrect. Because how would they know what's right or wrong? They were just doing things. They're not overly thinking. They're not analyzing. They're just doing what they need to do to keep going forward. That doesn't mean what they're doing. It might work in the sense that it allowed them to survive, but it didn't necessarily mean it was good for them. For example, if I'm in a really bad situation, like I need energy to survive, I need energy and I need to go, snorting some potent drug of some sort would help me in that short term to have the energy I need to get through that situation. But it doesn't mean it's good to do that because it helps me in certain situations, does it? It doesn't make that a good thing to do. So when somebody who was analyzing would say, hey, listen, that might have worked for you for this time period, but here in the long run is why it's not very good. And if you don't have any health issues, well, you're just a lucky one, because actually doing this will cause health issues in quite a lot of people. In fact, in 60% of people, this causes health issues, and it's only 40% that don't. So actually, you're pretty lucky to have not had anything while you've been snorting these potent drugs. Do you know what I mean? So it's very unlikely that they actually got it right. Anyway, that was a whole side thing. I thought it was funny. I see a comment here from Frodo Lee. What's up, man? Yeah, it keeps coming up since you told me in a stream a little while back you'd likely do a Ram's Den chat episode on this topic. You're surely familiar with the topic from Avi and VG and probably have some interesting, valuable thoughts on this no BS take. I can't, yeah, maybe a while back. I don't remember when. Before, but the Ram's Den's been quiet for a long time, but I'm going to be picking it back up again soon. But no, I'm not familiar with the topic, and I'm not really interested in it, to be totally honest with you. Like, to be totally frank with you, maybe back then I was, but I can't say I am really now. But if it, I don't know, if it crops up again, then I'll think about it. But yeah, I don't want to let you down, bro, but the topic is not really something I'm into right now. The Ram's Den's going to be taking a little bit of a different direction, but yeah, we'll get into that later anyway. But thank you for the tip, and yeah, sorry to let you down there. I don't remember saying I'd do it in the Ram's Den, but it must have been a while ago, like I said, because I've not uploaded anything there for a while now. All right. Taste and enjoyment. Where? How did I just go off on that just now? Oh, that was it. Yeah, the meat cravings. That was a long segment from me on that topic,
which is probably pretty much settled science at this point. Another thing is that global cuisines, Thai food, Japanese food, you name it, Italian food, Burmese food, ... They rely very heavily on animal products in almost every case. And if we just make the world vegan tomorrow, it would upend a lot of that cultural inheritance significantly. Like coming up to Italian grandma and be like, no more meatballs, grandma, use fake meat. She'd be like, what the fuck?
Bro, culture and tradition is not, God, do I have to, okay, I don't want to be patronizing here, but let's just be real, okay? Culture and tradition are not good enough excuses or justifications to do bad things to animals or to anyone. It doesn't matter how enriching the culture is, how long it's been going on for. It doesn't matter. That's not good enough alone. Culture constantly changes, constantly adapts. It isn't set in stone. It can move, it can change, it can grow, all these different things happen. There's no culture. There's very, very few cultures on Earth that are exactly as they were when they started. They change. They all change. So there's nothing wrong with them changing to incorporate a vegan option into them instead of continuing to abuse animals. There's nothing wrong with that.
Like, small concern, but it sure makes grandma pretty sad. All right. Again, very small concern.
It's a small concern. At least he admits that.
Good news is fake meat vegan products are getting better and better.
Yep. Like
the Impossible Burgers, I've been told, very, very good. I look forward to trying one at some point.
Cool.
And almost undifferentiable from meat, as far as at least a lot of people say. Maybe not everyone, but it's getting better all the time. And again, seafood seems to dodge a bunch of problems here, because there's probably very few downsides of eating seafood and fish as far as any of the other vegan concerns. But tons of cultures rely heavily on seafood and fish and can continue to have their beautiful cultural history and expression of modern cuisine.
I just disagree with that already about the fish. We've already been through the reasons, but I won't repeat them. But maybe I will. Long and short of it is, don't need to abuse and kill fish. So don't do it. Fish have feelings. Fish are complex. Stop pretending that they're plants. Done. Next.
Okay. So, big list of listing all 10 of these concerns and sort of giving like a really one-phrase quick assessment of how it stacks up in the grand architecture. And don't you worry, we have 2 more slides where we'll be breaking this down a little bit and leading to some conclusions. So, number 1, pain and suffering. Anything above a fish, like chickens, cows, pigs, ... anything more advanced than fish is pretty bad. Okay? And remember, again, there's a spectrum here, up to, if you think of it in certain ways, terrible. Okay, at least pretty bad. If you're really, really sort of like unemotional about it, you're like, yeah, like logically it's pretty bad to kill all those things that have feelings. And if you're really emoting, you're like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. And you may not be wrong. Okay, so at least very bad.
Anything above plants is actually very bad. And it goes from we'll start with fish because that's where he's going, right? Fish, very, very, very bad. And I'll agree that because I am it's not speciesist, but I suppose it's a mammalist. We identify more with other mammals, right? And I think that's just one of those things. It doesn't mean that killing fish is okay, but I do feel, it's probably wrong, but I do feel that I agree with him in that the pigs, cows, mammals suffer in more various ways and more different ways than a fish. But then that doesn't mean that it's less okay. It's all wrong, but I'll give him that I do feel like it would most likely be a more intense experience in a pig versus in a fish. But that doesn't mean that one gets to live, one gets to die. This should all be left alone. We shouldn't be killing and eating any of them. We don't have to, so why do it? So, yeah, I'll give him a little bit of his due there, but still no reason to kill fish.
Political precedent. There's no bad political precedent for eating animals. It's only bad if you eat humans. There's a pretty clear line in the sand there, so that is what it is. It just renders the arguments like, what if it was people you're eating, pretty much null and void because there's not really an effective comparison because animals don't have sort of self-integrated societies.
Disagree. Already we've been over that. It's a very human supremacist mindset to say, well, killing animals doesn't impact society in the same way that killing humans does, therefore we can't make the comparison. No, it doesn't make any sense. It's not a good enough reason to say humans are more important just because society would crumble. If we killed humans, it's not supposed to be taken literally. It's in a vacuum. Why can we kill one and not the other? What is the difference? Society would crumble. That's not a difference. That's not a quality of the human and the pig that makes the difference. Like, what about the human or the pig is so different that we can kill one, not the other? Not the impact they have on the world. That's a terrible reason. Because then you could pick out humans that have zero impact on the world and say, okay to kill them then? And you'd say no. So then what is it then? And we just keep going and going and going. So disagree on that one.
Rights reciprocity. Pretty bad if the animals are cuddly. Like, not terrible, but also like, why are we killing cuddly animals that would never hurt us? Only very, very bad if human. And some other animals that are around humans can be trained relatively well to offer considerable rights reciprocities. For example, dogs. Like, dogs can be trained really well, / are genetically oriented to actually respect a significant amount of human rights. Like, if you have a bulldog, there's a very low chance it's going to be biting or hurting anyone, and it probably would feel really bad if it did that. That comes close to some sort of real deep, maybe not understanding of, but emoting about rights reciprocity, right? A bulldog knows if it steals something, it did a bad thing, something like that. So like, if we're eating dogs for food, holy fucking shit, that is especially bad. Probably worse than eating like cows or pigs for food, certainly cows, because they probably don't have that level of deep connection with humans, right? So that is what it is.
An animal's connection or like a connection with a person doesn't mean that they're more deserving of life or less deserving of life. No, that's not right. They live for their own purposes. It's not dependent on what you think of them or dependent on if they can reciprocate rights or not. That's not good. That's wrong.
Number 4, environmental effects. Factory farms are really bad. The rest is probably something like, huge pastures are probably pretty bad, but like hunting and very, very modern industrial farming techniques are probably okay. Probably okay in that respect.
Yeah, if you remove all ethical considerations from environmentally friendly farming, then yeah, they're good or can be okay with the environment. But that's why we don't remove all the ethics, because without ethics, what kind of world do we have? I'll say what I said earlier. I don't want a world that is environmentally friendly but packed to the brim with violence. I don't want to live in that world. Fortunately, we don't have to live in that world. We can live in a world where we aim to be not non-violent animals, but we also have an environmentally friendly world. That's possible. Even if it wasn't possible, still no excuse to go around being violent. So disagree on that one.
Life producing and enhancing potential is only really bad in most cases if we're talking about humans. So another big human-animal split, as there was in the political precedent discussion. Next one is self-directed freedom. If you have an animal that is a large range animal, like it prefers to be free and go around a huge range, if you limit it to a range smaller than that, you're doing a bad thing. And for sure, definitely humans apply to that. But some animals that does not apply to. Right? Some animals are, for the most part, just don't give a shit if they're confined to a relatively small space.
Went through that already again. Well, I'll reiterate. I'll summarize my point here. If you're rescuing an animal, then these are things you need to take into consideration. Are they going to be happier in your house? Or are they going to be happier outside? Are you going to rehabilitate them, put them back out? Or are you going to keep them inside because they're actually going to be better off inside with you and they would be happier there, or they don't particularly want to go outside and you're helping the rescue? That's a whole conversation for another time. Doesn't apply to farming, because in farming, you're breeding them into existence, putting them in shitholes, and then stabbing them or shooting them in the head. So, or electrocuting them or gassing them. So this doesn't apply.
Bystander suffering, very easy, bad for vegans for sure, animal rights activists, and just normal people who care, like myself, for example. Rarity and conservation does not apply to almost any farming directly. Like, pigs are not going out of, there's no extinction risk for pigs precisely because we farm them, at least in some respect. Really bad for endangered species. And there's a lot of downstream consequences for mega industrialized farming and pasture that makes a lot of species extinct. So it's actually pretty bad for a lot of shit. Right?
Okay. The last 2 points are pretty good. That he says he does care, and vegans care, and he cares too. And also farming is bad for all the other species as well. So good points.
So directly farming of pigs doesn't cause this. Indirectly, it causes a shitload of it.
Yeah, and farming pigs causes all the problems to pigs, as well as indirectly all the problems to other animals. Good point.
Nutrition, in most cases, there's no need to eat meat, but there's also not a huge harm in one way or the other if some kinds of meats like, insects and shrimp and crustaceans and potentially even some fish.
But why would you do it when you could just get plant-based alternatives and there'd be no, as he said earlier, there'd be no issues with your health and there'd be no issues with your performance. So why would you do it?
Taste and enjoyment. Meat wins, but not by much. And in 10 or 20 years, a lot of meat-like products, hopefully laboratory-grown meat will be up there anyway. But even if it's not, a lot of meat-like products taste damn close to meat. And this is like number 10, let's be honest, is a fucking frivolous concern. Like, if we're like destroying the lives of, giving birth to and then destroying the lives of like 10 million pigs a year or some shit, well, it's very difficult to justify that just on like, I just like how they taste. Like alone by itself, good God, that's tough. In concert of all these other things, maybe not as tough, but certainly number 10 is not a standalone argument for eating meat in most cases.
Good point. Absolutely agree. It is definitely a frivolous argument. It does not stand up to scrutiny. It's a disgusting reason to kill animals. And I think it's a good point. Appreciate that. Couple of we get the tip from Frodo Early, thank you mate, and then a super chat as well. I'll read yours first. No worries, but you gotta watch the RV-VG debate then, as the rights-based community veganism is finally becoming. It's valuable to have more logically consistent pro-life vegans on board, which could bring significantly more pro-lifers to veganism. Sure, I did that skit where it was pro-life versus pro-choice, pro-life vegan or something like that, where I made the kind of a mockery of the, I can't remember which one I did. It was like pro-life meets pro-life vegan or something like that. And I made a mockery of how the arguments that pro-life people use, what was it? Yeah, they say, hey, it's a life. And the pro-choicers shout, oh, it's just a clump of cells. And then in the skit, the pro-lifer goes, oh, but I don't care about animals. They don't have emotions. They don't have a soul. They're just a clump of cells. And then it's like funny because they used the same arguments against vegans. So that was kind of like the point of the skit. So yeah, happy. I am trying to appeal to different audiences with very vegan driven content. But in terms of debating into vegan about these topics, it's less of an interest to me right now. I'm trying my hardest to put my focus on getting pro-vegan content out into the world. So that's kind of like where I've flipped the focus now. But thank you for the suggestion and taken into consideration. But know that we're on the same page with trying to reach new audiences. Like I've done videos where I've spoken about why conservatives should be vegan, things like that. So we're already on that road. Mark J, thank you for the super chat, mate. Thank you, David, for helping to raise human consciousness. Thank you, Mark. Do my best, mate. Do my best out here. We're nearing the end of this one now. Let's. I'm interested to see the next 2 slides that he's got here.
All right. So how does all of this add up? Where do we stand? Because we just blabbed philosophical and scientific for a real long time. What the fuck is it that we actually discovered? A couple of things.
True.
These are sort of what I extract from it. You may extract very different things, and if you do, please let us know in the comments. Right? And if someone says in the comments something you don't like or you don't disagree with, or you want to know more about it, please feel free to at least hopefully politely address their concerns. There's been enough yelling and calling people assholes about this for like, I don't know, decades. We could probably do a little better than that. So if you go vegan, you check almost all the boxes or all the boxes in that whole list of 10 things, and that's fucking awesome. And I encourage you to do so. I think if you don't care one way or another for any other reasons, if you're vegan or not, go vegan. It's fucking sweet. Like, the vegans won this one. They fucking won. And when lab-grown meat comes around, your boy's going vegan too. And everyone should, because it's fucking sweet. First of all, you get to eat shit made out of a lab. That's cool, because it's all sciencey and shit. You feel like Dolph Lundgren from Rocky IV. And also, it's just super convenient, great environmental benefits, no suffering, all the way down the line.
I appreciate the the candid attitude. I get to eat shit out of a lab like Dolph Lundgren in Rocky. That's really funny. I never heard that take before. Usually people have a big problem with lab meat, but he's like, no, I fucking love that. Yeah, but dude, the thing is, right, Dr. Mike, I don't know if he'll ever see this video. He's a pretty big deal, so likely he won't. But if you do see this now, I would say if you already know you would be vegan if you could get lab meat because you agree with everything you've just been through, that you're against animal suffering, you're against all these different things, why not just do it now and bear with the various meat alternatives that are not as good, in your opinion, until lab meat is here? Excuse me. Oh my God. So many burps today. I killed the whole vibe. Oh my God. No, but seriously, come on. Listen, if you already agree, then why hold back? Why wait for the lab meat? Do it now. Be vegan now. Deal with the foods that are not quite there yet, in your opinion, to be perfect replicas of meat. And then when lab meat comes along, well, hey, celebrations. Now you can get your perfect replica of meat. There's no need to wait for that. If you care about animals, you care about animals. So make the change now. And then have a celebration when you get the lab meat, when it eventually comes around. That's what I think. And, well, I think that's the right... Well, I don't think. That is the right thing to do. That is the right thing to do. If you are convinced of the ethical reasons, if you're an animal lover, or you care about animals, or you think animals don't deserve to be stabbed for a burger, you should be vegan right now. And regardless of the technology, regardless of what's available right now, because you can be, in a 10%, 15% loss on taste and texture is absolutely worth it to not be part of a disgusting, violent system that abuses animals. Absolutely worth it. And that 10, 15%, whatever, 20%, it's subjective. For some people, it might only be a 5% difference in taste texture. It might not even be a loss. It might just be a difference that you adapt to and eventually you don't even realize. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. If it were a 50% difference or loss of worse texture, if it were 90% tasting worse, it doesn't matter, because no amount of good taste is worth all of that violence to animals. No amount. But the fact of the matter is, it will probably only be a 10, maximum 20% difference / loss of taste in the first couple of weeks, and then when you get accustomed to it, it'll be like whatever, you won't even care. So as it is, it's actually really good anyway. So it's all good. Just do it now. Be a vegan.
Now, if you don't quite want to go vegan, if you eat from insects up through fish inclusive, so including the crustaceans and shrimp and crab and stuff like that, you're probably doing almost no harm in any one of these categories, including pain and suffering, because most of these animals probably don't experience anything like pain and suffering.
It's not true. It's not true. We've already been over that. He's making an assumption that these animals, insects through to fish, don't experience pain and suffering. You just don't know. And actually, we do know a lot more about fish. Insects, more research is being done. But the fact is, you don't need to. You don't need to, so why do it? Just eat the plant-based stuff. Just go for the plant-based burgers. Make your own. It's really, there's just no need to eat insects or fish or any animals.
And so this is a huge step forward. So if you're like, dude, I want to go vegan, but god damn it, sushi's good, you're fucking golden. Just eat sushi and eat plenty of fish and all this shrimp and all this other stuff. But, if you can find it in your heart or in your taste preferences and desires to avoid eating pigs and cows and chickens and shit like that, then this is huge. It's not like and a lot of vegans make a huge mistake of this, not all, but a lot, of like, they watch you eat shrimp and they're like, you fucking asshole. Like, look, way better than eating chickens and cows and pigs, especially pigs and cows, which are quite emoting, super smart, very social. So if you can just eat, all the way up to fish and down all the way through insects, man, you're doing an awesome, awesome thing, huge step forward. So if you can't find it in your heart to just cut out meat completely, then this is a really, really awesome step.
Is that what he does then, do you think? Do you think he's a pescatarian? The way he's speaking right now suggests that he is a pescatarian because he cares about pigs and cows and chickens, which is, I find, really interesting. And if that is the case, that if you're a pescatarian because you care about pigs and cows and chickens, it doesn't make any sense that you would eat other animals. Because if you care about animals, you care about animals. If you care about the suffering and the pain, if you care about the fact that they have these little lives in this world where their lives are pretty confusing sometimes, they don't have the same understanding of the world as we do. They are functioning at the same level in terms of cognitive ability as human children. Why would you, even if you don't think that they are completely having an experience that's subjective or whatever, you don't buy that they're having a very complex experience, why would you kill them anyway? Why would you want to kill and eat them? If you're a pescatarian, there's no reason you shouldn't be going all the way, and being a vegan. If you're a pescatarian for those reasons, you have a vegan ethics mindset. You're just not acting on it. Because if you're a pescatarian because you care about the experience of animals and don't want to put them through hell, that is a vegan mindset. You need to be expanding that to as many animals as you possibly can, not just drawing the line at fish. Doesn't make sense.
I highly encourage it. Now, this will probably surprise at least some of you, maybe not most, especially if you've been paying attention.
Okay, hold up. There's a couple of tips. Thank you so much, Fulmar Music. Thank you. Thank you for the super chats. Well, they're big super chats. Thank you so much, mate. Love everyone, and become your idea of apotheosis if you want. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. I'm gonna have to quickly Google. What does apotheosis mean? Apotheosis meaning. There you go. The highest point in the development of something, a culmination or climax, or the elevation of someone to divine status. His appearance as Hamlet was the apotheosis of his career. Okay, cool. Become your own. Become your idea of... Is it apotheosis? Am I saying that right? I've never heard. You're probably a very smart person. Or maybe you're trying to sound smart. Which one is it? No, that's really interesting. Thank you. I've never heard that word before. Added to my vocabulary, and I'll be using it now in videos. Now I won't be able to use that in videos. I'll never be able to use that in a sentence without it sounding completely forced. But hey, thank you for teaching us all that word. That's a good one. All right, he says here now the next bit is going to surprise us. Let's see it.
Cut out meat completely, then this is a really, really awesome step. I highly encourage it. Now, this will probably surprise at least some of you, maybe not most, especially if you've been paying attention. If you hunt animals that we sort of have designated as not likely to become extinct and naturally overpopulate anyway, then you're very morally defensible. So if you go upstate and shoot a deer and bring it back and make venison out of it and eat it all bloody, the most hardcore vegans in almost all cases, if they're being intellectual about it and have followed through this whole thing, they should be like, yeah, word up, that seems fine. Right? That deer is going to fucking die anyway. It could die from like a hobbling, nasty 10-day illness where fucking finally like various critters just eat it from the inside out. Fucking terrible. Or, at the prime of its life, it could get fucking zapped with one bullet, never feel a thing, and then make some other people happy with its body.
Yeah, sure. So there are people, lots and lots of people across the world who are dying of different diseases or are likely to die of different diseases. People in very, very poor parts of rural, poor parts of the world where they still have like epidemics of like AIDS, malaria. And it's really likely that the percentage likeliness of these people dying of one of these diseases very early in some areas is really, really, really high. So, Dr. Mike, jump on a plane with your rifle, get over there and just pop a bullet through their heart at the prime of their life, because at the end of the day, that disease is going to take them down and it's going to be a long, arduous process. They don't have medical care. They don't even have clean water. It's going to be suffering, long, drawn out suffering. So just get out there and just pop a couple bullets in them while they're healthy so they don't have to go through that, right? No, of course not, because that's not a solution to the problem, is it? Solution to the problem would be getting them a healthcare, getting them medication, getting them education, teaching them how to potentially avoid that whole situation. Now, we can't teach animals how to avoid that situation, but we got to look for better idea, like technological advancements to be able to help them, or things that we can do so that we're not continuously encroaching on their habitats. There's got to be non-violent, less invasive ways that we can find. It doesn't justify just going out and shooting them in the heart and trying to shoot them in the heart anyway. It's not like, what kind of hunters do you think you're dealing with here? Like crack sniper teams who can just nail the moving targets at any moment straight through the heart, one shot kills. Mate, not that it matters, but that's not happening. That's not happening. It's bunch of redneck morons going out, having a great time, trying to shoot animals and kill them, using really advanced like bows and shit like that, like crossbows or whatever. But they're just getting all, having lots of fun, getting all imaginative and excited with the different types of weapons they can use, and dressing up all the crap and all the camo, and carrying big knives with them and thinking they're really tough. And dude, it's not morally defensible. No, not when there are other alternatives that are being researched, have been researched, and not when now, especially when we're at the pinnacle of invention right now. Technological advancement is just going crazy right now. There's so many. There are currently options to be looked into, like we said earlier. Not sterilization, but I keep forgetting the word. There are ways to control populations of wild of like herbivorous animals that are overpopulated without shooting them, is what I'm trying to say. And one of them, they talked about like dropping food that has the contraceptives in, stuff like that. There's other things being discussed. It's not an area that I've completely delved into as of yet, but there are people who are delving into it who are absolutely against going out and killing animals. And these are people who have been researching this shit for their entire career. So yeah, maybe I'll do a video about it at some point. It's kind of a vegan adjacent point though, because it's to me, it's not big enough of an issue to focus on from my side, because we have so many people out there who fund farming, right? Animal agriculture. That's the priority. So this is why I don't really talk about this kind of hunting and the solutions to overpopulation, all that kind of stuff, because this channel, I'm trying to make it focused on the issues that are the more prevalent, I suppose. Not that it's not important, but we've got to prioritize, right? But maybe at some point, who knows? Maybe we'll get into that in more detail. Seth, thank you for becoming a member, mate. Welcome to the team. Now you get that cool little green logo, which is awesome. Welcome. And I see we have a super chat as well. Thank you, Dominic. I can see it. It's not popped up on the screen yet, but it will do. But I'll read it out. Hi, David. He ignores the fact that in nature, you won't have an overpopulation of a species unless human interference, such as getting rid of natural predators or bringing in invasive species, etc. Absolutely, Dominic. We did talk about that earlier, and you're absolutely right. It's another case of humans coming in to clean up the mess they caused with violence, when the mess they caused was also violence. So it's, hey, we've caused violence to you. We've wiped out other animals. We've wiped out your habitat, and we've caused you all these problems. So, oh, damn it. Now we're going to have to come in and cause you some more problems by shooting at you. No, not having that. Not having that.
Pretty morally defensible in my view.
Disagree.
Just don't hunt endangered species for the fucking love of God, right? Like, so hunting, like upstate Nebraska, shooting deer, fucking sweet. Shooting pigs, fucking sweet. If you're like post Instagram pictures of yourself, like some people have in the last couple of years, like ultra rich cocksuckers, like I'm in Africa hunting a fucking giraffe. Like, what the fuck is wrong with the giraffes? Are fucking barely alive. There's most of them are in zoos, and you're out there fucking killing one. Like, what is it that you get out of this whole process? Fucking leave the giraffes alone.
Right, but if they bred the giraffe specifically to be shot, so in a case where they've got the giraffes in the wild. This giraffe wasn't a wild giraffe. This was a giraffe that was specifically bred into existence to be shot at by hunters. Mike, would you have a problem then? Because if the answer is yes, you would still have a problem, then that's what's called speciesism. You have basically selected out a type of animal, a species of animal that you prefer not to be shot dead by a hunter based on the fact that they are one species and not another, right? So deer, oh, I mean, yeah, deer, shoot deer, but giraffes, I would hedge my bets on Dr. Mike that he just likes giraffes. People like giraffes. They're a loved animal. They're in all the pictures and things like that. Kids like drawing them. We all like drawing them. They're very interesting to look at. And that's pretty much the reason we love them. It's not because they're endangered. If giraffes weren't endangered, people would still love them. So, yeah, it's just classic case of speciesism. And for those that don't know what speciesism is, it is a form of discrimination between species based on nothing but the species. The same as racism is based on race, discrimination based on race. Sexism, discrimination based on someone's sex. And that's it. It's arbitrary. It doesn't mean anything. It's just, hey, you're a dog, you're a giraffe, you're a pig. Dog, giraffe, you should be rescued and saved. Pig or deer, we can shoot you because deer are overpopulated and pigs are for bacon. No, but the real reason is it's just because the species is the only reason. All these other things are just distractions. Basically, we have determined your species is to be protected and yours is to be shot. We've made up excuses to do it, but ultimately it's just because of how you were born.
Hunt animals that don't have a population problem. That's probably a pretty good start. And in fact, very morally, not just neutral, but possibly even morally defensible, like a good thing. Like you're making sure that animals don't overpopulate, get crazy disease and all that stuff, which is actually really good.
We went through all that.
Now, if you eat beef, pork, chicken, etc., you're doing quite a bit of harm. If you're cool to just take that morally on the face, respect. Okay?
Why would you respect that? Like we said earlier, if someone was cool to take it on the face that buying a cat or a dog from a disgusting breeder who abuses their animals, oh yeah, I don't care if they abuse their animals, I just want the dog or cat. Yeah, respect. You shouldn't respect people for that. That's not a respectable thing to say or believe. They're scum, and you tell them they're scum if that's what they say in the face of the truth that they're funding animal abuse. In the dog or cat case, we'd say that's scummy. If someone's looking at a computer screen and we're showing them horrific animal abuse that happens to pigs and they say, I'm happy that happens if I get bacon, you turn to them and you can either walk away or you can tell them you're a scumbag. But the last thing you're going to do is shake their hand or tell them respect. The last thing you're going to do.
So you can't walk around really being an intellectual and being like, man, fuck it. Like, I'm not doing any harm. You're doing a shitload of harm. Shitload of harm. What you can do if you're totally cool with doing harm, hey, listen, at least you're speaking it out loud. If you're not cool with doing so much harm, you can do some things and still hang on to eating chickens, pigs, and cows, and other animals like that. Consider purchasing from / advocating for more humane and environmentally friendly farming conditions, right? This is a really big thing that can make a huge impact and actually bring you very close to veganism on the sort of total moral calculus here.
No, dude, come on, man. That is, there is no humane way. I'm just gonna do like the basic vegan quote here because there's no other way to say it. There's no humane way to stab, shoot, gas, or electrocute animals for things you don't need. You acknowledged earlier in this exact same video that there is no health consequences and no performance consequences to eating plant-based. So it is for taste preference. It is for convenience. How can you humanely kill an animal that doesn't want to die for that reason? And the ways of killing them, by the way, what's the humane way to kill them then? Currently, it is a combination of all these different things, usually in twos: electrocution and slit throat, shot in the head, slit throat, gassed, slit throat. That's currently the most humane way. You have a more humane way than that? What is it then? There isn't one. There isn't. It could be that you, like we do with dogs or pets, you inject them with something that makes them just die, sleep, then die. It's still inhumane because you're taking their life so you can eat their body for a taste or for convenience. There's nothing humane about that. Humane means with compassion or benevolence. There's nothing humane about that. whatsoever. Compassionate, benevolent, you just want to eat them for no good reason, not for survival, taste, or convenience. When you've acknowledged that you could just eat the plant-based instead, but you don't want to, you want to do that, that's not humane. It never will be. No matter how fancy the farms get, no matter how technologically advanced the farms get, it's never going to be humane. You're living in a fairy tale land.
Like, especially if the animals grow up happy, they're given medicine so that they don't die of really nasty diseases they would in the wild. They're fenced off and guarded from predators. Because
they wouldn't exist in the wild. It's not like they've been taken from the wild, put in a farm. They didn't exist, and now they do exist because a farmer bred them and then patted himself on the back for giving them protection and medicine. He created them, did that, and he only does that so he can make profit when he kills them. Because if they got sick or eaten by a predator, he makes no money. These people are not doing animals any favors, mate.
Predators fuck animals in the ass all the time in the wild, and they grow up happy and around their friends, and at some point they're just slaughtered very humanely. Fuck, man, that's like maybe a net good.
Dude, that's such an insane point to make. He's acting like they've been picked out of the wild and put into a different scenario that may be better than the wild. It is not the case. They never existed. They were bred into existence. They packed into these places, and then they're not just hanging out with their friends. They're living in a very unnatural, stressful environment where there's hundreds of them, thousands of them. They don't want to be that close to each other. They don't want to live in each other's piss and shit. They don't want to be that. That's not how these animals operate. It's not how any animal operates. And then, yeah, then you're going to go kill them. No.
So you can just continue to eat those animals and be morally like shake vegans' hands and be like, we're not doing any harm to animals. We're keeping them safe. We're keeping them, away from predators, keeping them healthy. And then at the sort of prime or toward the end of their life, we, very humanely slaughter them. They don't have to go through any super crazy shit as far as like losing a hoof and fucking walking around on a half bloody stump for like 3 months and just losing body weight until you eventually die. That's how nature works, by the way, folks. Nature's fucking awful.
Yeah, sure. These animals, he keeps comparing farmed animals to wild animals. And this is where he's made the big mistake. I'll repeat it again. They do not interact with each other. Wild animals and farmed animals are completely separate. When you farm an animal, you're not giving them a better life than the wild. They were never in the wild. That is a ridiculous comparison to try to make. Earlier in this video, he said that we can't compare it to humans because of blah, 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 blah. But here he is trying to compare wild animals to farmed animals. It is far more reasonable to make a comparison to humans than it is to do this comparison. Trust me. Far more comparable. So, and in this case, we can make a comparison to humans. He's saying, if we do this, if we do that, if we do this, we do that, then it's fine. It's not harm. That's the argument he's making. It's not harm. So if you take a human, super happy, having a great life, and nobody knows that it's happened. Nobody knows them. No one knows who they are. They have no friends, no family. Nobody will miss them. And you just pop a bullet in the back of their head. Is there no harm done then? Because nobody knew them and nobody saw. They didn't feel any pain. So that's it. That's morally permissible, is it? No, of course it isn't. Of course it isn't. And this is an important thing to point out here, because it's not only about them feeling pain. It's about you infringing on their body. It's about you enacting an act of violence on somebody else who wants to live, right? Somebody else who has a subjective experience. You're taking that from them with violence, whether it's with pain or not. Yeah, it comes into the equation, but it's still wrong to do it regardless of whether they feel pain or not. So, yeah, maybe this guy, Dr. Mike, maybe at that point, maybe he would say, I don't see an issue with what you just said. If a human has nothing going on, no one cares about them, they don't care about anyone, no one will miss them, no one sees it, and they don't feel anything when you kill them, he might say there's no problem with that. I would disagree. I would say there is a problem with that. I would say it's wrong to enact violence on somebody else like that. I would say that's a wrong thing to do, and it's still wrong to do it to a pig or a cow in the same circumstances.
Maybe it's not a bad thing at all. So the quest for veganism is a very, very morally righteous one, but it doesn't have to be the only quest. If you really care about animal suffering, which is a good idea to care about, you can
Agree.
do a lot by simply buying the kind of products
Disagree.
that are noted to be like farmed in a sustainable and very ethically sourced food is a real good idea.
You have fallen for propaganda, Mike. You have fallen for industry propaganda that tells you this is even this. Some places consider themselves to be doing this right now, and they're completely and utterly wrong. Free range is not what you think it is. It's not rolling fields and wonderful sunshine and it's a larger barn. Humane doesn't mean they're cuddled to sleep and they just die. It just means that, well, humane in these slaughterhouses means guns, gassing, slashing of the throats. This is humane. Electrocution, slashing of the throat. This is what they mean by humane. That's not humane. It's not what humane. It's not compassionate. It's not benevolent. So there you go. So don't fall for the propaganda that these industries try to shove down your throat. You go out there paying more money for humane, local, organic, blah, 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 and they slap the sticker on it. You pay an extra, $3 or whatever it is, $5. They're making a mockery of you. They're laughing at you because they've got you to pay more for almost the exact same thing as the non-humane version of it all. They've just got you to pay more for the idea that you have in your head that these animals get massaged into the slaughterhouse. It's bullshit.
And even if you want to go to the level of saying, because animals can't advocate for themselves, maybe we should have a legal system that advocates for them, then maybe that's a consideration as well. So maybe we could have a set of laws in the EU or in the United States that says, look, you can hunt everything you fucking want as long as it's not, endangered. And if you're going to farm, you have to meet these basic criteria of, at least don't fucking make the animals' lives miserable. And then maybe we're off to a real, real, real good start. And possibly even that's as good as it gets. Right? It's so good.
We already answered all of that, but yeah.
So much good by changing the way we're farming and trading animals that it turns out most arguments against eating meat, that is to say most arguments for veganism, just lose most of their steam if cruel factory farming is out. Or it changes to be not cruel, then a lot of veganism arguments really just don't hold much merit anymore.
Yes, it's obviously just not engaged with enough vegans to understand that factory farming isn't the only thing that we talk about. We're talking about animal rights. We're talking about animals across the board, from a factory farm to local farms to small farms. It's not any one type of farm that's the problem. It's animal agriculture. It's animal farming, full stop. That is the problem. It's animal use, abuse, and exploitation that is the problem. No matter how nicely it's done, it is the problem. And you guys will see more and more of this coming on this channel very soon. We're going to be getting into way, way more detail on this whole small local humane farm nonsense as we move forward. There's lots of stuff coming up that I'm excited to share with you and show you. But yeah, even without me talking about this and having all this stuff on my channel, this guy, Mike, could have already found out all this information by watching some popular vegan YouTubers and what they say. I mean, Earthling Ed's a pretty big YouTuber at this point. He's not much smaller than this guy's channel. He could have easily watched a couple of videos about why factory farming isn't the only thing vegans care about before making this video. It doesn't seem like he went deep enough into his research, unfortunately.
If you care about animal welfare and the welfare of the planet as an ecosystem a lot, and you really want to do the most good, I would recommend, in my analysis of what's going on, for you to put as much resource as you're capable or interested in putting into advocating for humanizing, right, making more humane, and cleaning up, reducing the environmental impact of factory farming first. That's where you can do the most good.
Well, you know what? We can agree here, actually. A slight alteration to what he just said. I agree that we advocate against factory farming as a priority, but not to clean it up, to end it. As a priority to end it. So we agree that factory farming is the #1 priority, but he wants it cleaned up and made more humane, whatever that means. I'd like to ask him what that means, actually, by the way. I'd love to have this live now and say, hey, Mike, what do you mean by make it more humane? Can you describe what that would be? I'm not really sure. Yeah, because the answer is they're already doing it in a way that they consider to be humane. So I don't know what you could possibly do that would make it humane. It can't be. You could make more space. You could make it so that it's, I don't know. There's alterations you could make that would make it less brutal, I suppose, but it would never be humane. It's not possible. But anyway, back to the point. We agree that factory farming is the first priority to be shut down, in my case, changed in his case. So there's common ground kind of there.
So if you have a spectrum of what you can do to help animal suffering and help the planetary ecosystem, advocating for factory farms to change their processes to become way more humane and way less polluting is probably one of the best uses of your time if you really give a shit and think it through, not just feel it through. And like all the way in the end is like a famous actress walks out in a fur coat from like a Lamborghini purchasing area, like a Lambo dealership, and you like squirt fake blood on her fur coat and ruin it. You fucking meteor scumbag.
You know, it's funny. I don't think I researched this, and apparently no one ever did that. Apparently it was some kind of propaganda, and that's never actually been done. No PETA activist ever squirted paint on a fur wearer. Apparently it was some kind of skit that the media went with as being real or something, which I found really interesting. I didn't know that.
Like, you're really just entertaining yourself. You're emoting. It feels good to be righteous. But what you're accomplishing is just people fucking hate you more, and then they think vegans are insane people, and they hate them. And anytime vegans are like, hey, I have some good points, and there's a video, it says, YouTube video, vegan convinces blah, blah, and they're like, I'm not going to click on that. Vegans are nuts, right? So if you're in that camp, you say you care about animals a lot, but you're doing something that has maybe a net negative effect on animal welfare and on the ecosystem of the planet. Whereas if you start to intelligently advocate, and as a consumer to other people and to corporations, try to demand with your dollars better factory farming conditions that are way more humane, less factory farms, more open ranges and a constraint, and of course, less environmental pollution, then you're doing a really, really awesome thing that really helps. Now, I know this is like a technical thing, and it's more of like voting with your dollars and voting with your ballots and less like squirting blood in people's faces. It doesn't feel gutturally as good, but remember, you're a human being. You have the ability to think as well as to feel, and you can choose to do better by thinking a bit more and understanding that while your feelings have a ton of validity, how action really happens, how change really best happens is through your logic, not just through your emotions.
So his point here about voting with your dollar is entirely correct. And that's what vegans do. Vegans are voting with their dollar. And if more and more and more people vote with their dollar, factory farming won't just have to change and become more, thinking more about the animals and trying to make it less brutal for them. It would actually have to completely alter everything. In fact, they'd have to shut down and change their business to something else, because that's what voting with the dollar could do. If enough people stopped buying meat, dairy, eggs, and other animal products, these businesses would have to shut down and reopen as new businesses. So that's what vegans are doing. We are voting with our dollar, and we're trying to get other people to also vote with their dollars. So he's not wrong. What he's talking about with the guttural kind of screaming and blah, 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 that stuff is a misunderstanding of the reasons, the different goals of different forms of activism. So you've got the disruptive activism that he's talking about now, where he's talking about throwing paint at somebody or shouting at somebody, and it's embarrassing and people don't want to talk to vegans, blah, 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 blah. The point of that is it's disruptive. It's disruptive protest. The point of that is to disrupt usually a place of business, to cause problems in the higher ups, that the CEOs get wind of the vegans disrupting, or what can we do to stop these vegans from doing it? Politicians, for example, when you're disrupting politicians, you disrupt them at their home or in their place of work, or not just vegans do this. Lots of other activist groups have done this when they want to get a cause brought to the table, on the debate table, in the politicians, with the politicians and stuff like that, right? So this is where disruptive activism comes in. It's not necessarily aimed at the consumer. It's aimed at these big corporations, because it's the only way to get their attention. So that's why disruptive activism works. If somebody is doing disruptive activism aiming it at the consumers, you've got to tailor it to the consumers then. So if you want to go into McDonald's and start shouting, and your aim is actually to have the people at McDonald's listen, then it would be wise to shout something like, McDonald's is fooling you. You have been tricked. They're lying. They say it's humane. We're trying to help you understand. So that would be more the style you'd have to go for if you want to appeal to them. If you're trying to get viral content, if you're trying to appeal to more people online, maybe you'd say something spicier, so you can get a clip that's really viral, someone getting angry, and then it goes out there. So it all depends on the goal, but he's not wrong in that yeah, like a really good goal to have would be to have people not pay into the system, because the only reason the system continues is because there is money in it. And if there's no money in it, it's only an amount of time before the government subsidies will be propping up the entire industry entirely. But people aren't buying the products, and there's only so far that can go. And eventually there'll be a tipping point, a breaking point, where the government says, right, we ain't subsidizing this anymore. The government say, we ain't doing this anymore. You're not selling anything. Nobody wants your products anymore. That's it. It's over. So yeah, voting with the dollar. Agreed.
Folks, holy crap, that's a whole lot. If you hate this video, let us know. If you love this video, let us know. Either way, like, subscribe, comment, dislike, do whatever you do. See you next time.
Interesting video. So overall, he said in his video that he would like to know if there were nuances that he thinks that we think that he missed. I think there were nuances that he missed, and I think I've went through them. But I appreciate that he is not a vegan, and that he is a meathead, meaning not that he just eats meat, but also that he's a big dude, the big gym rat. But he's not stupid, clearly, and he's open-minded, and he mentioned multiple times that he does care about animals. He came at this from an intellectual perspective, philosophical, as opposed to, I want meat, therefore I should do what I want, blah, blah, blah. So honestly, this was a pretty pleasant experience. I actually appreciate this form of not anti-vegan. It wasn't even anti-vegan, was it? It wasn't pro-vegan. It wasn't anti-vegan. It was just trying to kind of play both sides. And actually, I respect him for doing that versus what most people in his world do, which is just shit on vegans. So fair play. I'd love to debate him. You guys said debate him. I'd love to have him on for a chat, but I highly doubt he ever would, being such a big deal. 800,000 subs. I'll make some clips of this. Who knows? I'll make some clips, put them on Twitter, Instagram, stuff like that. We'll see. You never know. You never know. Maybe he's moved on from the vegan stuff. I mean, he made a post about, he did do a short about 5 months ago. I checked the vegan short. So he's interested in the topic still. I think in the short, he was just saying that there's lots of junk food these days, so vegan isn't necessarily healthier, which is true. I say that too. You can be an unhealthy vegan, and that's a possibility. I don't recommend it, but it is something you can do. So veganism is not by default the healthier way of living. I agree. So that was something he said recently. But overall, yeah, interesting video. Somebody did go vegan off the back of that video. I'll show you again, those who missed it earlier on. It says, where is it gone? Hey, Mike, the video played a big role in my decision to go vegan. Thank you for sharing your views in a logical way and clearly well thought through manner, as always. And I know us vegans can be very emotional on this topic, but just wanted to say thanks for speaking about this topic in such an intelligent and open-minded way on your channel. Much love. I agree with it. It was intelligent and open-minded in comparison to other people who aren't vegan who talk about this. So given that, yeah. My friend recently turned vegan. It's like she totally changed. It's like I never knew her before. Good one. Yeah, and people just saying this is good, I went vegan not because of the killing, but because of the suffering. I grew up on a farm. My family were third world peasants. We killed the animals because it was necessary for our survival, but we never abused them. I just assumed for years that when we were talking about animal agriculture, it was the same situation as when I was a kid. Small family farms where the animals were cared for. When a cow got pregnant, we didn't rip her baby away the day it was born, leaving the mother grieving for her baby. It was like, hey, great, another cow, more milk. I saw a video of it, and it broke my heart to see the mother cow grieving for her baby with the knowledge that this happens to her over and over again throughout her life. That's when I was like, okay, I don't want any part of this. Interesting. But yeah, in this case, like I said, farming's farming. We don't want any animals to be born into farms, but it's still nice that this guy went vegan because he realized, how fucked up things are. So yeah, very cool. Interesting video. Guys, we're closing in on the 3-hour mark. Oh, we've got a super chat, Veg90. Hello, David. Keep up the good work. Hey, Veg90. Thank you for the super chat, mate. Appreciate it. Guys, a good one today. Interesting stream. Hopefully some people watch the whole thing and realize that you should go vegan, because of all the reasons he said to go vegan and all the reasons I added to it to go vegan, we should all be vegan. And if you appreciate what we've done today, you appreciate the time that's been put in here, a good 3 hours, please do consider joining the team, the David Rams team, here on YouTube, the YouTube members team, on Patreon. Because, guys, I want to make it clear, and I don't think I make this clear enough to you guys, to be honest with you. I saw a video from Cliff Grant the other day, and it made me realize that spelling it out, I don't think I really spell it out so much to you guys. Because I don't really like to go on about this, but I think I will do a video about it at some point. But I'll kind of give you a bit of a vibe of what Cliff said, and I completely agree with it. That I don't know that you guys realize that the editing and researching and filming on top of the other work that we do that you guys don't see yet, it is an insane amount of work. We're talking for one video, and especially an outreach video or a face the facts video, we're talking 3 to 4 days, somewhere 2 to 4 days of just editing, right? And then maybe 1 to 2 days of thumbnail design. And I say days, I don't mean like days one after another. That's not what I mean. But I'm talking that it takes days to let the creative process work. So there's many hours, but then you've got to step away from it to let it sink in, and you got to come back to it again, because then you got to feel it again. You got to watch it, and every time you watch it, that's 10 to 20 minutes. Every time you watch it, you got to watch it again. You got to watch it again. This stuff takes a hell of a lot of time, and a hell of a lot of effort on top of the other stuff that we're doing. So if you guys do appreciate that, all this time and effort that myself and Annie put in to animal rights content, vegan content, as well as this project that we're doing, which is a very, very important animal rights project, which is taking up also a shit ton of our time, please do consider joining the Patreon or the YouTube team, because yeah, this is the only way we can keep doing this. There are other things that we are able to, subsist with. Subsist, is that the word? For example, the t-shirts. We got the t-shirts on the web on the David Rams website. Go check them out. That helps. We've got the YouTube ads. That helps. That really helps too, to a certain extent. But the majority of the reason we can keep doing what we're doing is you guys and your support. If all of you stopped and quit your memberships and quit the Patreon tomorrow, I don't know what, we wouldn't be able to continue. We genuinely would have to stop this whole thing. We'd have to, until we could figure out where to get the support from next. So I just want you to realize just literally how important it is, and how important you are, and how it's physically impossible without your support. So if you're on the fence, or you're ever thinking about joining the team and supporting, now you know how damn important it is. So if you value what I do, if you value the work that's going in here, please do consider joining the YouTube team or the Patreon team. Patreon team, I would say, is better, because the YouTube team, you get the cool little green logo, but with the Patreon team, it's better for you because you get access to direct DMs with me in a place where I will always respond, because it's Patreon. It's right there. No one else is messaging me apart from patrons, whereas Instagram, it can be hit and miss. I get lots of messages, but Patreon, I can see you right there. It's only patrons, and I will always prioritize that. So, but YouTube members, also, you guys are legends too. But I'm just saying, Patreon probably gives you more benefits like that. Yeah. So I'll probably do a short video, maybe highlighting all the kind of stuff we're doing, and especially when we get to announce this other project that we've been working on for about 1.5 years now, which is just huge. We've just finished phase 1 of it, or just finishing phase 1 of it, and hopefully when we've finished that, we'll be able to just at least tell you what it is we're doing, give you some information. And so yeah, I'll be vegan from next week, surely. Thanks for the live stream. Hey, Kumar. That's a very cool little message, dude. Vegan from next week. Hey, good. That's good shit, man. Let us know here if there's anything we can do to help make that happen quicker. All right? This is the way I am, man. Anything we can do to encourage you to go faster, we'll do it. Anything we can do to help you make that change, get here in the chat, join in my YouTube streams chat, Come on the YouTube videos, drop some comments. There'll be a fuck ton of people ready to help you, give all the information you need. I see you've got an Indian name. If you're based out in India, I know tons of vegans out in India that could help you. Basically, wherever you are in the world, there'll be someone who can help you. I assume your name's Indian, by the way. Sorry if it's not. But anyway, point is, there's someone somewhere that can help you, guaranteed. All right, and we can hook that up for you. Great news, mate. Love that. Thank you for doing that for animals, mate. It's a very nice. Dave Rams is doing an Indian dance with his feet. Believe. Yeah. I'm big into the Indian dancing. All right, guys. I am going to wrap it up today. Again, a big thank you to everybody who's been involved today. It's been a very interesting one. Enjoyed the chat. You guys have been having a great time in the chat, and it's been nice to catch up with everybody. I'm going to do streams as regularly as I can. All right, so we'll definitely be doing more of them. Let me know. You can always drop me an email or message me on Patreon. It's a really good place to do it. Of course, if you've got a video you want me to react to or something you want me to take a look at in a stream that you really want me to do, drop me a DM in Patreon or an email. Maybe if I see your email, I'll pick it up. But Patreon would be the place for sure where I'll see it. I'll react, tell you if we're going to do it, if we can't do it. So just, that's the really good place to get me. Otherwise, you guys are coming in with the last minute super chats. Hey, thank you, Dominic. Missed that one, mate. Thank you, mate. Before you go, I have a quick outside the box hypothetical question for you relating to an ethical question for vegans in the far future. Say 200 years after the human population has gone vegan. But that's not. Is there a question? Oh, you want to ask it later, Dominic? Listen, mate. I was gonna go, but I can give you a couple more minutes if you want to ask the question. But I see the super chats here now. It says, no worries, you're wrapped up and you've been at this a while. Ask this question and later another stream. Thank you for everything you do. Dominic, listen, if you want to ask the question now, listen, mate, you're supporting me. You're doing as I said earlier. I said we need the support. We appreciate the support. The least I can do is stick around for a couple of minutes and answer your question. I'm more than happy to do it. So you don't need to do another super chat if you don't want to. Just pop your question in the live chat now, and I'll answer it right now. All right? Totally happy to do that. Thank you for supporting. Oh, he's done another super chat anyway. Oh no, he's not. It's good. Yeah. So just pop it in. You don't need to do another super if you don't want to. Okay, just pop it in the live chat, and I'll answer it. You guys have been legends today. I enjoyed this stream. Broccoli's in the chat if you enjoyed the stream, guys. Broccoli's in the chat. I guess while I'm waiting to see if this question comes, I'll just say to anybody waiting, go vegan. You should go vegan, please. You should absolutely do it. This video should have convinced you, but if it didn't, you should go vegan. It's worth it. For animals, do it. Fulmar music. You dropped a super chat. Thank you. Race Lever Streamlabs isn't being mental. I don't know what that means. Are you guys having like a debate about something? Thank you for the super chat, mate. I don't see. Oh, okay. I see Dominic's question here now. All right, here we go. Let's pop it up. Once we hit at that point in say 200 years, should humanity move on to veganism for animal predators? Before you think I'm crazy, I'm talking about using artificially created non-sentient prey. In 200 years, should humanity move on to veganism, put artificially created on? Well, if there was technology available that would would that could be a possibility. Why wouldn't you do it? If they're happy and these AI things have no harm or anything like that, and it helps every animal. If it helps animals, and why wouldn't you? I wouldn't call it veganism though, because I don't know. I don't think that would make sense to call it veganism. But yeah, I mean, in some crazy alien world where that could be a possibility, why? I don't see the reason why not to. Again, if you took into consideration that everything else was ticked and everything was fine, in some like super hyper advanced world. But this is purely hypothetical, obviously. Thank you for the question. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like saying, it's like a hypothetical. It's like saying if I could flick a switch tomorrow that made everybody in the world vegan and it didn't impact the environment in any negative way, and it didn't impact people's lives in any negative way, like nobody suffered from it and everything was just plop, vegan, would you push the button? Well, yeah, of course I would. And there's you know what I mean? There's many hypotheticals we could create where if everything was great and nobody was harmed and the world was better, of course we'd do it. You know what I mean? You could give me a million hypotheticals with the same outcome and I'd say yes every time. As long as no one is done wrong by, So yeah. At least anyway, this stuff off the top of my head anyway. Maybe we do some more thinking on it, but I suppose it could be, you could get a lot deeper into that philosophically, but yes, anyway, I appreciate the question and thank you for it. I think that's all there is to it, right? Guys, good stream. Like I said, I'll aim to do this a little bit more often, a little bit more regular. Send me some suggestions, stuff like that you have that you want me to react to. And as Annie said, yeah, please do leave a comment under the stream as soon as it goes up, because then YouTube's like, oh, look, lots of activities here. And then they'll promote it more and all that good, fun, lovely stuff. As you can tell, my energy's starting to drop a little bit. It is 10 p.m. for me. We have been streaming for 3 hours, so I'm going to call it quits now and get myself a B12 injection. Guys, keep being legends. I'll catch you all in the next one.